So let's talk about beginning orchestra, beginning strings, how to teach them, how to take kids and get them started on violin, viola, cello, bass, to hopefully make that into a wonderful sounding orchestra in no time. My name is Joel Powell. I'm an orchestra teacher and conductor. I've taught high school orchestra, which I currently teach, and I've taught a whole lot of middle school orchestra as well, with lots of experience in starting kids in their orchestra experience, and I've even taught at the elementary level as well. I'm a dad, I love kids, and I love working with kids on a daily basis. I've been really blessed to have a really fun career and a successful career in which I've had a couple of my groups play at the Midwest Clinic a couple different times. Most recently, our orchestra is the Indiana Orchestra State Champion as well at the high school level. So the decision to make this video was really born out of conversations that I've had with orchestra directors and colleagues through my YouTube channel, through professional development sessions I've led, and just everyday conversations. Folks just wishing that there were more examples of how folks do their thing in the classroom. Because the reality is we all get so busy as orchestra teachers, band teachers, choir teachers, it gets hard to get outside of our classroom on a frequent basis. And let's face it, YouTube makes it pretty easy. By no means is this video meant to be the be-all, end-all in terms of orchestra teaching. There are so many different ways to do the same thing. But this is just my way of going about teaching. I hope to kind of give a glimpse of what the first 3 weeks or so look like in my orchestra classroom, the things that are on my mind when I'm teaching. So it's a few days before your kids are coming into the classroom. You're thinking about, how am I going to convey my joy and positivity, and how am I going to get them as joyful and as excited as I am about playing their instrument? Of course they're going to be nervous. Acknowledge that in those first few days. Maybe you're a little bit nervous. That's okay. Goodness knows I am. I always feel the butterflies a little bit. I always have that first day feeling a little bit in the pit of my stomach, and that's okay. Acknowledge that with the kids and get them excited about the first moment that they walk in your classroom. You're thinking about everything that you've got to do to get started. First things first. Chances are that there's a rental program in your program. Maybe the kids rent directly from you. Maybe you provide the instruments, or maybe, I know in my case, we have a third party, and that music shop provides the instruments. Through contracts, we've had a setup night the year before to get kids all set up on the right instrument, get them tested, and have all tried on their instruments so that we have them sized properly. And so that's really important that you've done that already. Make sure you've gone through that step, because improperly sizing beginning strings could lead to a whole host of a lot of problems: tension, frustration, just the inability to really play an instrument that's too big for them or too small for them as well. As you're getting set up for that first day, I would take a few days beforehand, plenty of time, and it's probably going to take a good day or two to get every one of those instruments that's been delivered to your school or that's come out of your inventory in tune and really set successfully for the kids, so that when they take it out, they're ready to go. Think about rosin. You don't want a bow that's going to take 45 minutes to have to rosin. It's frustrating, I know, to have to do that, but if you take the time to make sure that the instruments are all set for the kids, it's going to make a huge difference. I would think about making sure that you have finger tape on the instruments as well. I'm a big proponent and big believer in finger tapes. And I will talk about this more, but finger tapes 1, 2, 3, and 4 on the violin. On the cello, 1, 3, and 4. On the bass, fingers 1 and 4 in first position. And then I also mark the third position markers for like C sharp and D, which they'll learn in third position as a part of the D major scale sequence. If a child's on too large of an instrument, stress, tension, it's a real problem. If they're on too small of an instrument, they can feel a little bit crunched as well, but especially the oversized instruments can really lead to a lot of tension and a lot of frustration and the kids wanting to quit. You also want to communicate the importance of getting a good quality instrument. I would work with a supplier, a music shop, or maybe you have your own instruments that you're providing, but just to make sure that you have quality instruments to the best of your ability, because obviously the market's been flooded with a lot of different quality instruments, some better, some a lot worse, unfortunately. You're getting to that first day and you're a couple days beforehand. Let's talk about what you want to make sure you've done by that point in time. And the preparation is really important to having a successful string class. If you're having really big classes, I've done a little bit of everything. I've had really big classes where I've started 60, 70, 80 kids all in the same classroom. Or, maybe it's a smaller class. Maybe you're blessed with getting to teach a little bit smaller class, and that's great. The techniques I'm going to give you will help you to be successful no matter what. But it's really important that you've connected with your instrument retailer, the rental place, whatever local music shop that is, or if it's you providing those instruments and you have those instruments, getting them all in tune a couple times before the kids come in, because they've sat over the break that you've had most likely. You want to get those instruments really in tune. I use tapes on string instruments and I highly recommend it. Now, a lot of people have a lot of different feelings on this. I'm really picky when it comes to playing in tune. And tapes, when done poorly, are the worst thing ever. And when they're done really well and used correctly, they're great. It's like any tool, right, in life. If you use the tool right, it helps a lot. So let's talk about the tapes. For me, I put black finger tapes on. This stuff is awesome. It is pinstriping tape, and I get that from the local auto parts store, and it tends to stick really, really well. I like the darker colored tapes. There are a lot of different variations of this. I wouldn't use electrical tape. You get a lot of residue on there, but this seems to be the best. It sticks for a pretty good long time, and by the time they start falling off, that's probably around a great time to start gradually removing these. Having an exit plan with tapes is important too. As they start to really, after that first year, get a really great sense of pitch, I'm going to gradually remove some tapes, including like the second finger tape on violin, or the third finger tape on cello, or the fourth finger on bass. Some teachers believe in just putting one tape on the other. My big philosophy in having these tapes is it helps because to have like these four, for instance, on violin and viola, because if you're setting a G, they can see what a G looks like on the D string, and they know exactly how to place their hand. Now, it's important that you as the orchestra teacher take the time to really get those tapes perfectly in tune, down to the cent, which means perfectly tuning the strings with a tuner, and then checking. I usually use Equal Temperament on a tuning app, and I'm going to go through and I'm going to check that I have every tape in the right place. Does it take a long time? Yes. Get a trusted friend. Get some high school students perhaps to help you with this project, or some former students who just love orchestra. We all have those, right? And they'll be glad to help you with this, or a colleague, a friend to come in and give you a hand. If it's just you, I've been there too, and I've put them all on hundreds and hundreds of instruments, but it's worth it. So it's that first day, the kids are here. Get them excited. Don't forget to smile. It's so important for all of us, especially on a string instrument where sometimes there can be inherent frustrations. Make them feel great on that first day. They come in. I've got my chair set up in a grid-like pattern in columns. So I've got like a chair here, chair here, chair here, here if you kind of imagine this is the seating chart, and then next to that another chair, right next to the other one. So it's kind of in columns, and I can walk up and down those aisles, and I can adjust position as I need to. It's really helpful to do that. And I strongly recommend using that column approach if you're able to do that. Then give the kids the information once it's time. Tell them how you want them to go get the instrument, quietly, silently, and then they're going to come back and they're going to sit quietly, and they're going to sit on the front half of their chair, nice and tall, sitting up real tall, comfortably but sitting tall. You're already pre-teaching. Think about how you can pre-teach even in the smallest ways, and you can explain, all right, friends, I want to see you sit nice and tall on the front half of your chair. And you'll notice if I turn my chair around, I've got one of these Coda chairs, which is really nice. You can make just about any chair work. The ones that scoot backwards are really tricky. I've had to deal with those in the past, but if you have a nice flat chair, that's the best. Ideally one without a rung for the feet, because you don't want them to prop their feet up. Posture is everything. I'm already teaching them how I want them to sit at the chair. So sit them nice and tall. This is pre-teaching. They're on the front half of their chair. So, and you can even kind of make a game out of that. Okay, relax, really sleepy morning time. All right, now, ready to go, excited, orchestra time. Show me orchestra time. I'm gonna bring my chair back facing you. You may notice it's a little bit out of frame here, but I've got my case down here. And I have this case. Your kids might have a shaped case in most instances, but I've got a nice ProTech case right here. They've got the instrument. I have them set it what I call skinny side up. So let's sit it skinny side up like this. The big bump of the instrument is facing outward, and the flat part is facing inside like this, okay? I always tell them you should see the most zipper kind of on this side if it's a zip case like this. And obviously you help them if it's not quite the right way. This might be a good chance to play some getting to know yous too, as you're introducing yourself and telling them all about how much fun orchestra is going to be. So at this time, I would have them put the instrument then flat on the floor like this to make that small adjustment like that. And the way that this is going to help them to kind of understand the orientation of the case, and also making sure that people don't trip in your classroom, right? Otherwise you're going to have a complete disaster. So obviously I'm going to speak to the violin and viola at first, but I'll also speak to cello and bass here in a little bit as well. So I'm going to have them open the case. If they have latches, I'm going to have them pop the latches on that case as well, and get it all set for being open. Don't open it yet though. Keep it flat and keep it closed. And what you're going to do is just pop the lid just like you do to the trunk on your car. And it's going to stay open like this. Theirs might pop all the way open. If it's a shaped case, most likely it will do exactly that. And they've got the instrument. And I will have already asked them, please do not pick it up yet until I tell you to. Boy, are they excited to go at this point. They're just dying to get that instrument out and start playing it. Before every action that you give them and command that you give them, remember, make sure that you are pre-teaching and you're giving them a heads up. Hey, we're going to open the case, and we're not going to take it out yet, and you're just going to leave it there. We're going to keep the instrument, we're going to keep the case open on the floor, and we're going to look at our instrument. So always pre-teaching, always one step ahead, a little bit like in conducting, right? All right. Then at that point, I'm going to tell them we're not going to play yet, so don't pluck the strings yet, but go ahead and take them out of the case. All right. Remember, I've already tuned the instrument. I've maybe even come in early that morning to try to check everything, or the night before. I've checked everything. So the instrument's going to be nice and in tune for them. So their first impression isn't oh my gosh, I got to wait for 3 hours for the instrument to be tuned, right? So they're taking it out, and then I always say, okay, let's all say, ooh, shiny, right? So they love it. We're not plucking yet. If they do that, just to use the old teacher trick, you raise your hand, you can smile at them, and if you need to give someone the teacher look lovingly, you can do that to let them know, we're not plucking right now. One really big point, the kids are going to be so excited to want to learn the bow, and they're just going to have to be patient. And you can make it into a cool thing that, hey, we're going to get to that. We're going to get to that real soon. But first, I want to get you all set up with the left hand and how to hold the instrument. And so you're gonna make that a really cool thing, a point of anticipation. I don't hold off forever on that because I think that that's detrimental, but I do wait a bit to get started on the bow. I would not start at the same time as the instrument, otherwise it's just gonna lead to some really frustrated kids. Notice that once I have the kids take their instrument out of the case, if it's a violin or viola, I'm going to have them close the case. And then I'm going to have them zip it up or latch it. Most likely it's a latch, but if it's a zipper, they zip it up. Then I'm going to have them put it skinny side up, what I call skinny side up like this, right against their chair. That way you don't, as the orchestra teacher, trip, fall, and die trying to walk through the aisle of your students. It can be hazardous, and I've taken a couple spills and I almost broke a bone once, kind of got hurt doing that. So I use that as a good story for the kids. Then at that time, what I always like to teach them are the parts of the instrument, whether it's violin, viola, cello, or bass. Obviously, be specific. I'm going to kind of go through the violin setup first here and viola setup, okay? So the first thing I would teach them is, all right, ladies and gentlemen, and we do kind of a call and response. They repeat after me. These are the strings, say it, strings, that go over the fingerboard, say it, fingerboard, which is near the nut. which is near the peg box. Say it with me. Peg box, right, which is near the pegs. That's right, which is near the scroll. Very good. Now, what is that scroll and what is your instrument made out of, kids? Raise your hand and tell me. Okay, so then I'm going to call on a student, right? And I might really try to get around to, and I try to use this opportunity to get their names. So as I'm calling on students, we're, okay, yeah, so Jimmy, what's it made of? It's made of wood, that's right. All right, so wood. So should we smash it to the ground? That'd be a no. You gotta be careful, you gotta treat it like a baby. You're not gonna take your instrument out and leave it outside. You're not going to leave it in the car while you go into the pool. Talk about care at this point. Hey, I don't know about you, my dad was a really handy guy when I was a student, but I sure didn't want him to try to do home repairs on my instrument. There was a time, actually, I probably as orchestra teachers, we've seen lots of things, but I had a student once, dad, bridge fell off, dad glued it back on with construction adhesive. We don't want that, so emphasize no home repairs. If something's wrong, if the string is loose, you let me fix that. I'd rather be the person who break it than you, and then you have to pay for it, or through your rental have to take care of that. So you can even explain. For now, I'm going to tune the, what are these called, guys? The strings, that's right. Which go over the, and you go through the process again. Then I go the other direction. These are the what? The strings, that's right, which go over the bridge. Very good, bridge, yes. Which is near the tailpiece. Say it with me, tailpiece. Very good. Which has the fine tuners. Okay, fine tuners. Now, the fine tuners and the pegs adjust the strings. You shouldn't touch them. Quiz, students, should you touch the fine tuners? Yes, no, you shouldn't, right? So you have that. You're having fun with them. You're creating this energy and this momentum to class where it's already exciting. Okay, and the tailpiece is near the end button. That's right. Okay, the end button. In the case of the cello or the bass, the end pin. That's right. Okay, and we have the tuning keys up here instead of the pegs. All right. Some folks still call them the pegs, so whichever you prefer. This side is the front. That's right. This side is the back. That's right. These are the sound holes. That's right. I call them the sound holes. Okay. On the front is I call this the jaw rest. And I also tell the kids, it's also the chin rest, but we don't really put a chin on it, we put our jaw on it. So I really tend to refer to it as a string teacher more as a jaw rest than a chin rest, okay? All the while you're reminding them, are you sitting up nice and tall in the front half of your chair? I have a special lever where I can control how high you sit. I always play this little game with them. So, okay, I've got it to the max right now. You're sitting up tall. Well, let me adjust it down. And then we play a little game with it just to remind them, keep it fun, keep it light. Right? That sort of thing, just to keep it light and fun. Really, that's kind of all the essentials that they need to do, that they need to know. But you kind of do this fun call and response with the whole group just to keep it exciting, keep it fun. All the while, you're reminding them, feet flat on the floor, we're sitting up nice and tall. Now, the feet are going to be very important. So if you can start to establish the feet being flat on the floor now, it's going to make your life easier and their life easier also when they play here in a little bit. The reality is each day, as you kind of continue on, you're going to probably have to have a system for tuning the instrument. I'm going to have an A every time that I'm referencing that's going in the background. And as soon as kids are getting in my room, if it's a regular classroom year, as soon as they get there, I'm going to get them up in that tuning line. I'm just going to do a quick pluck tuning to make sure I get it exact as humanly possible, right? Okay, so we've gotten to this point. And we've gotten through the parts of the instrument, general care, and then in that first day, the other thing I would do in that first day of getting them started is I'm gonna try to teach them a little song. But first I'm gonna have them sing up nice and tall. They're on the front half of their chair, feet flat on the floor. I'm gonna have them turn the strings so they're facing you right now. And as you do that, I want you to take your hand and think of making a cool C shape if it's violin and viola in this case. We're going to have the strings facing you. I'm going to give thumbs up in the right hand because orchestra is cool. You might have to remind kids which hand is which. When I model, a lot of times I will do it backwards for them just so that they can see in the modeled way it's mirrored for them to make it easier for them, okay? So consider doing that a lot, and we'll get into that more here in a bit as well. But I've got the strings facing them. Thumbs up in the right hand, bring that thumb onto its side and plant it at the base of the fingerboard right here. And we're gonna have them pluck each string. We're gonna say, go all the way to the left, Okay, sitting up nice and tall, feet flat on the floor. Say this a lot, front half of your chair, right? And go ahead and find that lowest string and just pluck that with your thumb a few times. Let's all say G. Good, sing with me, G. I also sing a lot. They know right away I'm a singer. I was in choir as a kid. I love singing, okay? Then we're gonna go one to the right. D, that's right. And then A, then E, and just have them go through that process of finding each string. The first drill I'm gonna teach them, I'm gonna have it written on the board, but we're gonna learn daily drill number 1. And for me, daily drill number 1 is gonna be like this. We're gonna go all the way to the left for the string, so everyone find that string again. And we're gonna pluck 4 times each string, and we're gonna kind of just move our way over to the right, playing each string 4 times, and then come back and go the other way. So let's try it together. I'm gonna demonstrate once. So here's how it goes. Notice I'm sitting up nice and tall. Are you still doing that? Good. All right, strings are facing you as the player right now. Shoulders are relaxed. Good. G, 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 D, 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 A, then E, E, E. Then I'm gonna go back to the left. A, I've got it labeled on the board. Back to D, and then G, 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 G. And I've gone through this process. If you have violas and cellos in the same class, you can even start on the note C, which would start before that, right? And the cellos and violas would start that. But I'm going to have the strings drawn in, a little model on the board. Doesn't have to be anything fancy, but I'm going to have all 4 strings drawn in so that they can see, all right, G, D, A, and E. I'm going to gradually add to that map as we move through the learning process as well. So then I would have the kids do that exact same drill with me. We're going to do it together. Basses can also join you. It's just the same process in reverse for them, right? Because they're going up to the E. And obviously when we get to the E string, if you have violas and cellos with you, usually they're just going to pause when they get to the E and just let that E happen, and then back to the A. So this is very possible in a homogeneous or in a heterogeneous setting as well as a homogeneous setting also. So they've learned their first song. Make a big deal out of that. Congratulate them. Hey, give yourself a pat on the back. Say, nice job, me, right? Well done, well done. Okay, they should congratulate themselves and one another for that accomplishment. That's huge. And they're already successful. Make a big deal out of that, because as it gets harder later, you're going to want them to have that bedrock of success. It's so important. So they've learned daily drill number 1, what I call daily drill number 1. The next drill that I'm going to personally teach, is actually not a drill, but a song rather, is Ding Dong Bell. And I'm going to have them go to the A. So we go through the strings. All right, everyone find your G again, and keep reviewing that over and over again. You got the map on your screen, on your overhead projector, or up on the board, in my case. All right, good, there's G, D, A, good. Now find E, one to the right, just pluck that a lot of times, back to the A, good, and stop, good. Now that we've got that A string right here, right, we're gonna play Ding Dong Bell, okay? And you can even show them kind of holding it this way. We're gonna go Ding Dong Bell, A and D. So find your A, good, go to the left, find your D, go back to your A again, good. We're gonna play that song again. For basses, obviously, this would be in verb beat. A, D, D, right, like that. But again, very much possible in the group setting as well. Okay, and so then you're going to have them play that song. You'll even show them and demonstrate one. So A, D, D, A, D, D, A, D, A, D, A, D, D. Good. Now sitting up nice and tall, front half of your chair. Find that A again, pluck it. Find that D again, back to the A again. Good, and they're just still using their thumb. We're just getting them acquainted with where the strings are. I'm not concerned right now about going up into playing position and all that yet. That's coming later. Okay, but we're sequencing things. We're working on the way that they sit at the instrument. We're checking that their feet are flat on the floor, right? That they're on the front half of their chair, that they're identifying what the strings are and the parts of the instrument. They've learned a lot already. Keep that in mind. All right, so now we're going to go ahead and pluck that song together. Find your A, pluck it. Good, find your D, pluck it again. A, good, let's play it together. Ready? 2, keeping a beat for them, go. A, D, D, sing it with them to help keep the beat. A, D, D, and also so they know the notes. A, D, A, D, A, D, D. Then you can can teach that same sequence I do. It's like, congratulations, you know your second song. Now, how else, kids, could we play that same song? What are the other string combinations? So we did it with A and D. Oh, Mr. Powell, we could do D and G. That's right, very good. And what can someone else tell me with a raise of a hand? What's another combination that we could do? Well, if you have your violas, they might say G and C. G, C, C, that's right. Your violins and your basses could tell you E and A. E, A. That is kind of the general approach that I use to get them started. And then I'm going to have them play that same song on like D and G, for instance. So, okay, find your D, everybody. Plug that D, strings facing you, sing it nice and tall. Again, you can't say that enough times with beginning strings. It all comes down to that posture. So we're singing them nice and tall, front half of your chair, right? All right, good, feet flat on the floor, good. Thumbs up, orchestra's cool, good. Check your left hand, that it's nice and curved. You're making a nice straight shape right here, and your hand is curved. Notice I'm pre-teaching because then later, when we add that in over here, or in the cello or the double bass, it's gonna be so much more natural. We're gonna make a C in the left hand, because again, orchestra's cool, man, it's cool, all right? So go ahead and set that, good, thumbs up in the right hand. You're gonna have to adjust posture. You have to be walking around the room. If they get on the wrong string, that happens all the time. Just help them find it, it's no big deal. And if you have more advanced students maybe in the room, this is a great opportunity for them to help out and feel great about helping out as well. Good, we found our D, find that, good, find your G with me, back to D. And let's pluck those two strings. Ready, D and G, same song, go. D, G, G, ding dong bell, ding dong bell, right? Okay, we could do the same thing on G and C, E and A, etc. But you get the idea. And look at all we've accomplished at this point. We've got them sitting up nice and tall. Their feet are flat on the floor. They are successful and ready to go and feeling great about being able to play their first couple songs already, right? They know the parts of the instrument. That's a lot. This might be as far as you get for that first day, and that is okay depending on how much time you have. Oftentimes, that's as far as I get. And if it's a little less than that, that's okay too. Just at least get them playing one song like that successfully. So let's talk about the cello. First of all of my students and all the students in the districts I've taught at have a school instrument that they get to use and then a home instrument that they practice on and bring to concerts, with the idea being that they don't have to lug an instrument back and forth. Same for our double bass students. It just makes their life a lot easier, and I recommend your district investing in that if you haven't already. When it's finally time to play the cello, I'll have my students get their home cello in this case from the line of cellos that are alphabetized. I'll have them bring it on over. I'll have them sit with it in a very particular way, putting the instrument with the bump side facing away from them, very carefully, not hitting their neighbor. And again, I've got the chairs spread out in my classroom in a grid-like pattern so I can walk through and there's plenty of space, ideally. Once we're like this, I remind them to sit up nice and tall. We're practicing that good posture, pre-teaching that great posture, and having fun while we do that. Once it is finally time to take the cello out and get ready to play, they're gonna set it upright like this. First step, take that bow out of the case. I would have them set it on a music stand if there's a music stand, or simply to the right is fine, since their bow hand is on the right, obviously. Once they have the bow out, they're going to go ahead and unzip while it's still standing, kind of like a very fancy banana, very expensive banana. And then you're, again, emphasizing this is wood, we got to be careful, all that. They open it up like this, and you will have demonstrated this first, and then you just demonstrate that then you're just going to peel the case away, like so, okay? And then at that time, I have them with their other hand, just kind of stuff the case underneath their chair and keep it there in the meantime. The bass is awesome. At your recruiting concert, make it the cool thing that everyone wants to play. When it comes to getting this thing out of its case, and obviously much care is needed, okay? So I actually wouldn't have them, if they're gonna grab it, I always explain, all right, two handles, we got the handle here, we got the handle on the other side, and you're gonna grab it and you carry it this way. So once the bass is on the ground, it's just a matter of unzipping this thing. And sometimes there's a series of zippers. One of them's actually broken on this particular case, so there's just one that's functional currently. But like the cello, I'm gonna unzip it. The only difference is it's gonna be down on the side here, and you could do the same thing honestly with the cello as well. Before I take it out, I'm going to make sure that I've taken the bow out. And this is very important, just like with the cello. We want to make sure that the bass bow is out, whether it's a German bow or a French bow like I have here. Then once we peel that out, make sure they've got plenty of operating space to do this. They're just going to take it on out, and then they can move it aside, and then fold up their case and put that into a place where you want them to have it. Maybe it's in the back of the room, somewhere back in the bass room. So most likely it's day 2 for you. Maybe you got a little bit further, maybe not quite as far. Wherever you are, that's cool. Just remember, as the kids come back in, you're setting the tone for your expectations in the classroom, how they come into the classroom. You can get their instruments tuned, have them unpack, kind of gradually reminding them to unpack their instruments and put it skinny side up, having just the instrument out. And then you're going to come around and check the instrument really fast. If you have helpers, that's great. If not, I've been there with no helpers many times, more often than not. And usually it's just me. And so I'm going through and I'm checking those strings. It's so important to do that. Tuning is everything. If you show you care early on, they're going to care. So they're all set up. You're going to review everything that they learned the last day, right? All right, sitting up nice and tall, front half of your chair, sitting nice and strong. Good. And you're going to go into what we call concert rest position, and you can kind of introduce this really strongly, kind of introduce that the first day. That concert rest is where we sit up nice and tall, and we're facing the director. We have our left hand making the C shape on the instrument, and it's facing the front of the room like that. And then you just have them turn around, that instrument, face them, thumbs up in the right hand, bring it on its side because orchestra's cool. And let's find each string again, go through the whole process again. And then I'm also going to go to rest position. I'm going to give them opportunities to relax a little bit because this is physically taxing. And you can start to remind them, hey, today, if you feel like you've been to the gym by the time you've got to get done, that's a good thing. That means you have worked really, really, really hard. That's not a bad thing, it's a good thing. Just know you'll feel a little bit of ouch. Nothing horrible, but a little bit of ouch by the time that we probably get done today and throughout these few upcoming weeks, okay? And that's all right. Concert rest position, and you're really reinforcing now on the second day. Concert rest position, sitting up nice and tall, front half of the chair. Back is not touching the back of the chair. We're on the front half of the chair, feet flat on the floor, and instrument facing forward. I'm making my cool C shape because orchestra's cool. And I got my nice straight arm right here. Not like this, right? But again, I'm pre-teaching toward the ultimate position we're going to be in. Then have them face the strings towards them. You've reviewed all the parts of the instrument, all that, and you can kind of use that to break up the day too with some of the fatigue that'll be happening, okay? Depending on how long your class is. On that second day, I'm going to really get into using the shoulder rest. Now, I know different people feel differently about this. I've done it every which way. I've had kids use shoulder rests and then use sponges instead. I'm not a fan of nothing at all. I would do one of the two because it's going to, otherwise there's going to be a lot of fatigue associated with playing. And we look at a lot of the most famous violinists and violists, they use shoulder rests. Think of Hilary Hahn, think of Joshua Bell, Maxim Vingroff. You name a lot of the great performers and they're using it, and they have good ergonomical setups. And so this is just going to help your kids in general, and it is well worth the expense. Whatever you got to do, I would strongly recommend getting your kids to use these. When they're used properly, they're great. Kun, K-U-N is a good brand. Everest, I like that one too, like Mount Everest, E-V-E-R-E-S-T, Everest. That's a great brand. I even have my name written on the back. I would do that on your classroom one, otherwise you'll lose it. Have the kids write their name on it too, with a Sharpie, if you can think to do that as well. All the while you're getting hopefully to know their names. Speaking of writing names down, you've got their names on the front of the music stand. Maybe they made a little makeshift name tag, or you've made it for them. Either way, that can be kind of a fun thing. You can even have them decorate it. That could be a good first day activity as well. Okay, but they're going to put together this shoulder rest, and I always tell them, there are kind of two parts to this. There's the shorter screw, and we're going to put that on the stubbier side, the slightly larger side, the shorter screw, and then the longer screw is going to go on kind of the skinnier side down here. We'll screw that in most of the way, leave a little bit of space. And I kind of talk them through that and show that. The larger side is going to go kind of on the chin rest or jaw rest side, on the opposite of it, of course, on the back side. And we're going to hang that way, and then we're going to slide across the smaller part. And we're just going to slide it up like this so they're kind of equidistant. And I kind of show them how I set it up, and then obviously for each individual kiddo, you can make those small adjustments if they need their shoulder rest adjusted a little bit, right? You could show them right then how to take it off and where to put it. If they have a compartment to store it, that's great. If not, I know it gets a little challenging storing those things, but you can buy little holders for them that they sell. I remember back in the day, my mom, bless her heart, made one for me, and it was really helpful. It was a little drawstring bag. This is a great day also to start reminding them, hey, 20 minutes of practice. Think about anybody. You think about great NBA players, great baseball players, great volleyball players. Celebrate the fact that you have athletes in the room, by the way. You go to practice, you work it out. And there's time one-on-one, you work in the batting cage if you're a batter, or working at the free throw line if you're a basketball player, or serving if you're a volleyball player, etc. Make it cool. Tell them, hey, tonight, and you can even tell them this in the first day, go home and show your folks what you learned. Show them that first song that you learned and how to play that. Because it's going to be really, really cool for them to be able to see what you did. And maybe you can even teach it to them. A whole lot of fun and excitement right around this time, okay? Now, again, you've got the shoulder rest right here. You've got it attached. This is where I'm going to now start to go through the steps of playing position. And a lot of times I'm going to have my violins and violas standing for this process, okay? For the sake of this video, just so I'm in shot, I'm going to sit, but you can certainly have them stand up, and it elicits good posture as well. But you can also kind of alternate between that and sitting front half of your chair. Now, I'm going to continue holding my instrument on that left shoulder of the instrument. I'm going to go out to the corner 1, up 2, and you can kind of help tell them it's okay to use this. High in the left shoulder 3, bringing your in button down by your left earlobe. It's going to get right up against your neck, and that's okay. And look over your shoulder, step 4. Just like that. And you're going to look down the telescope. I like to use that term. We're going to look down the telescope. The other thing I like about the shoulder rest, look how relaxed my shoulder is. When you don't have that, it forces a little bit, either your head to have to come down or your shoulder to have to come up. So a sponge or a shoulder rest is going to be your student's best friend in this scenario. I'm going to have them go into rest position. Go out to the corner 1, up 2, high onto the left shoulder 3, bringing your in button down by the left earlobe. Look over your left shoulder, step 4, and down the telescope. Next thing I like to have them do, jaw flex. This is where they're going to use their jaw and their shoulder to help keep the instrument in place. We're going to do it for 10 seconds. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6. They don't have a shoulder rest. This is really hard. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Great. Okay, concert rest position. You go into just regular rest position. Give them a chance also to make sure that they relax. This is physically taxing. And you can even ask at this time, how many of you are feeling it in your muscles right now? Okay, yes, boy, I know. I remember when I first learned, make it okay. You don't want them going home going, it hurts, I want to quit. So tell them it's okay. It's a really important part of that process. Then you're going to repeat this process as many times as possible. Think of it like you're helping them to practice as much as possible. They should be playing their instrument as much as possible during your orchestra rehearsals, right? On these beginning stages, you're going to space it out because it's new. But as many times as you can get them to rep that in a fun way is huge. Out to the corner 1, Statue of Liberty, some people call this. Up 2, high onto the left shoulder 3, bring the in button down by your left earlobe, look over the left shoulder, down the telescope, okay? And step 4, right? Okay, so I've gone through that jaw flexes, and you can kind of increase the time, right? All right, now, eventually, you go through those steps, and you've played your daily drills already that day in the old position of having it down on the left knee, okay? Now you're going to have them go through the process of doing in playing position. So now, good. All right, jaw flex. All right, good. Bring that left hand up again. You're making your nice C shape. Again, I'm pre-teaching so that when we take it over here, that's already in place. So you don't have to go, no pancakes. You'll still have to tell them no pancakes or no pizza. What we call no pizza platters. But this helps from the very beginning. You've pre-taught this. Remember all the way back to that first day when they have the instrument just right out in front of them. It's huge, okay? So they're up in playing position. Thumbs up because orchestra's cool. Now you're going to show them this is a point of confusion. They're going to plant the thumb at the corner of the fingerboard. Pointer finger out, okay? Okay, for listen, right? We're going to listen to how awesome this is. You're going to use your pointer finger now to pluck, and you're using your thumb to brace, all right? Like that, all right? And go ahead and pluck. Let's do daily drill number 1. Find your G all the way to the left. Good. Help orient them. Let's go 1 to the right. That's your D. Echo me. Good. D. Let's go 1 more to the right. A. 1 more to the right. Notice I'm using terms like right and left. Go back to the left. A. D. G. If you have your violin or your violas and cellos, C, 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 right? You can go on to that as well. Again, the lower strings work very well in this daily drill. Great, okay, now that you got it, good, now we know where our strings are. If they need a rest, you can give them a rest. Okay, but let's go through the steps. Playing position, good. Find that G again. Good, okay, all right, and let's do daily drill number 1. 1, 2, I count them off for steady beat, go. G, 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 D, 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 A, E, 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 back down to the left, A, back to D, 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 to the left to G, and if you have cellos and violas, C, 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 C. Now by this point, position's gotten wonky. Now, remember, you remind them, you should be like a little puppet. I've got a little string attached to your head. I can raise and lower it, remember, okay? And some of you, your string snap. That doesn't happen. This is industrial strength string, so it's not gonna happen. So sit nice and tall. The string's carrying you tall, but your shoulders are relaxed, all right? Go back into rest position. You'll hear a bunch of sighs in the room. Okay, and then we're gonna put that instrument again. Okay, yeah, back in just regular rest position. You can tell them, okay, for a moment you can rest your back against the back of the chair just to relax your back a little bit, and they're gonna start feeling it by that point. I'm gonna go through the steps again, out to the corner, 1, 2, 3, 4. All right, and then you're gonna have them play Ding Dong Bell in that same position. Remember, and help them find the strings. Go all the way left. Right, find D, A, E. One of the things I use, the acronyms or the little tricks that I use to help remember the strings for the violin is good donkeys always eat. Okay? Silly. It could be whatever you want. You could have them make up something. That could be kind of part of the fun. Cool goats dance awesomely for the viola and cello. Every ant does gymnastics for the bass, right? It could be anything that you want it to be, all right? So again, having them go through the steps, 1, 2, 3, 4, okay? And you're gonna have them play Ding Dong Bell. Find that A, go to the left to your D, back to the A. Let's play Ding Dong Bell. Ready? Sing up nice and tall, feet flat on the floor. A, D, D, A, D, D, A, D, A, D, A, D, D. Good, if you see kids starting to do this, all right, now some of you, your shoulders are really tight, no vampiritis. You look, hello, I've come to take your violin, you know, right? Okay, we don't want that, so nice loose shoulders, right? We're gonna bring the instrument to us, no vampiritis, okay? The other thing you'll see a lot is the crooked picture frame, where kids do this, their head is tilted. Just remind them, loosen your shoulders, and think of it, I said, don't you guys have command strips? You know those things you attach pictures with the wall? Well, yeah, you've got a crooked picture frame. You just have to adjust it and use a command strip. So I just use the term picture frame, and that means for them to adjust their head. And they might not see it, so you can even go up with a smile, lovingly, not like, what are you doing? But again, it's all the joy in our face, you know, and look at them and kind of show them this. And when you need to adjust something, do it lovingly, okay? Do it lovingly, because there's a lot of hands-on adjusting that we're going to do, but try to get them to do as much of that as possible, okay? And then back to that concert rest position, all right? We have them playing through these songs now in playing position, which is huge. Next step with our cellists, obviously we're going to go through all the steps we went through with our violin students and viola students, of getting them all set with the parts of the instrument, and obviously recognizing the difference of the end pin being down here, right? And then we're going to help them get set with the end pin. So I have them set the instrument on their lap like so, very carefully. And then with the end pin, I have them turn it very slightly to the left, the tightening screw, and then I have them bring it out. Now, there's a lot of different philosophies on this. And obviously end pin heights will vary depending on the person and their anatomy, okay? So this is not a one size fits all, but it'll get them pretty close. One of the tricks that you can do is to take your hand and kind of spread it out like this, your thumb and your pinky finger, and then just double that, do that twice. And more or less that's gonna be about right for the height of the end pin and of the cello. In my case, I need to bring out maybe just a tiny bit more, and then ultimately, when they stand up, it should be even with their nose. If I stand up here, I'm a little bit out of frame, but let me check, and indeed, it is up and even with my nose. One really good thing to keep in mind is the surface that your students will be playing on. Obviously, if you're in a carpeted situation, a lot of schools have that type of setup where we have carpet. your end pen will be just fine on the carpet. However, this is a really important time to urge kids to be really careful when they go home. We don't want to tear up mom's nice floor at home. That will not end well. And don't ask me how I know that personally. I've never put a scratch on a floor with an end pen. Anyway, it's really important to keep that in mind. And so the good old school rock stops, these work. The good old little donuts here, little Oreo looking thing, works decently personally. And I don't have one on me right at the moment, but I am a real big fan of chair straps, which is just a strap that attaches to the left rung of the chair and then proceeds outward, and you can adjust it to a certain length, and then you don't have to worry about it sliding. The problem with these is when you're on a smooth surface, obviously you need something to put the end pen into, but these tend to slide. So I do recommend the chair straps. One of the first steps I'm going to do, just like with the violin and viola, I'm going to have the strings face the student to begin with, but I'm also going to have them, at first for the cellos, the back of the instrument rest up against them in rest position, kind of with hands on the side, and just teaching them that concert rest position, okay? Once we've had an opportunity to do that, in terms of the positioning of the instrument, more or less, well, first of all, we want this right side of the cello on the back to rest up against the sternum, right? The fleshy cartilage, kind of bony part that connects your rib cage. And it's going to be just kind of right up here on the sternum. And obviously, our end pin will be needed to be adjusted a little bit based on individual anatomy. But generally speaking, this is about the right place. You'll notice that the little pokey parts down here on the C-bout of the cello, on the body of the instrument, are kind of hidden, and both sides of my legs are making contact with either side of the cello. The C peg, the very bottom peg here, is behind and below my left hand. Okay, one of the other ways that you can kind of keep in mind a good positioning of the cello is also to have students kind of hug the instrument, and the instrument will kind of want to naturally fall in the right place. You'll kind of feel where it needs to be adjusted a little bit, either brought up or taken down. And I kind of think of the end pin position, like if I think out in front of me, almost being at a little bit like a 1 o'clock position, and then just a little bit of curvature, a little bit of angle on the cello. One thing you don't want though is too much angle. Sometimes kids will do that, and then they'll twist their torso also sometimes this way when they're trying to look back at what they're doing in the left hand or bring it away from them. We don't want that either. It's very important to keep in mind that we want students' feet to be flat. We want them to be right underneath their knees to ensure that they have the best possible position. What we don't want is for them to drive back here, which eventually will cause the knees to go behind the instrument, cause it to tilt all around. Not good, right? We don't want all that to be happening. And then obviously when they're concert rest, you can just put that left hand up on the bout, on the shoulder rather of the instrument, and await for further instructions. Just like on the violin and viola, I'm actually going to have the students on cello make sure that the strings are facing them when we're first learning what the strings are. And I've got all of those strings on the board in the classroom or on my overhead projector where I've actually drawn those in. So they've got a map. They also have that in their little take-home packet that I give them, their little orchestra survival kit or whatever you might call it, okay? So first thing I would do is just again to have their hand on their left arm on the shoulder of the instrument, facing you this time, and again thumbs up in the right hand, bring it onto its side, just like we've done in the past on violin and viola. I'm going to have them find each of these strings. So we'll start certainly by finding our C string. Let's go all the way to the left, cellos and violas. I'd probably have them do it together. C, right, okay, let's go one to the right. And I'd point on the board and I would demonstrate in front. G, very good, that's the G. Go one more to the right. D, good. And then finally one to the right, A. And then we can do that exact same drill. Once we've stopped on the D, like we did with the violins and violas, we can play that daily drill. Number one, A, D, D. I'm sitting up tall. A, D, D. A, D, A, D, A, D, D. Obviously, I would go through the other strings as well to get them really comfortable with that whole process. Okay? That ding-dong ding dong bell drill being a very important first setup. And then I'd have them do, of course, our daily drill number 1, right? Like we did on violin and viola. I'd also have the basses do that. And we're going to pluck each string 4 times. Again, having the strings look at us, so we're orienting ourselves and we're clear on what the string names are. You can even have them say it. A, as they're plucking it. A, back to D. Have them say the note names. G, G, G. And then finally, C, 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 C. All right? And again, congratulate them on being able to play their first couple songs. That's huge. And again, we'll go through the steps of going into playing position. All right, 1 o'clock position. All right, sides of the cello right up against your knees, and we're not squeezing, but just a nice relaxed hug. We need to give the cello a nice relaxed hug to make sure it's right about up here with our sternum, the left peg underneath our left earlobe. And again, remembering when they set the cello height about up to the nose or double hand length like so, okay? And at that point, then, they're ready to play the same songs, only in this position. Just remind them, all right, now it's going to be reversed because we've turned the strings around, but just find that thickest string. In this case, it's going to be the string all the way to the right. Here's C. Good. And let's go to the left. G. For daily drill 1, D. And so on, right? Up to A. And again, you can use this drill simultaneously with the violins, violas, and basses. Just making sure that the violins and basses understand you gotta wait for the first part. You don't have a C string, but educate the kids. Okay, hey, violas and cellos do have a C string, okay? And then obviously, same for the E string once we get to the top end or the low end in the case of the basses. And then at that point, again, you can do your ding dong bell. And again, I'm keeping this left hand on the side of the cello, and I'm kind of focusing on having them make a nice C shape, so I'm developing that position ahead of time so that when they bring it up here, we just have a nice natural C shape that we're making when we go to play the cello, right? So C shape on the shoulder of the instrument, and we're plucking our ding dong bell. A, D, D, and they can play the same song just like the violins and the violas and the basses. So with your bass players, you're going to want to have them set the end pin, and it's the same exact process as the cello. We loosen the little screw, bring out the end pin, tighten it again to keep it and hold it in place. And I would say it's about the stretch of a hand and then like half of a hand. So whole hand like this and then half of a hand. And roughly, again, that's just a guide just to get them started, but the most important thing is I want them to have the nut right near the top of their head. That's where I like for my bass players to have that, okay? As we start learning the notes of the instrument, I'm gonna have the instrument face them. I gotta remind them, like, don't let go of it, otherwise it falls over. And timbre, it ain't pretty, right? Thumbs up in the right hand, bring it on its side, and we're gonna pluck each of the strings. We'll find our G. Good, that's what it sounds like. Again, you're modeling this, right, on a bass that you have in the front of the classroom. Modeling is everything. Or come back to the section if you don't have room to have all the instruments up there. Come back and demonstrate it for them and borrow one and show it to them, okay? Then you're gonna go and pluck the D, then the A, help them find the E, and then they can play daily drill number 1, right? If your viola start with the C, 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 G, 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 D, 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 A, all the way down to E, 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 back to A, D, just so they're getting acquainted with all the strings. The playing position of the bass is very, very important. And I like to have a little bit of a V shape in my feet. So my feet are kind of spread apart like this. I know you can't see them right at the moment, but they're sort of spread apart, just a little bit of a V, shoulder width apart. I'm not going anything wider, it doesn't need to be that. You can also have your basses sit in the beginning. A lot of teachers prefer to bring the end pin, way down and kind of keep that same distance at the top of the bass, the top of the head, but bringing the end pin down and having the students set sit down on a stool. I prefer to have them standing, but to each their own. It's really your call in that regard, but the sitting might give them a little bit more ease in the beginning stages, but I know a lot of bass players who also prefer the standing methods. Once they are in that playing position, we're just going to bring the bass kind of in right on the corner here of the bass, and you can see it's actually quite worn on this instrument. That's just from it resting up against students. Now, we don't want it full on tilted in. Just the upper shoulder and the upper body of the instrument is leaning in, just at a slight angle outward. As you can see, it's angled towards the camera. We're going to want to start getting their left hand in the real playing position so that they can add left hand notes, right? Obviously, life's a little boring if all you have is open string notes, what we call open string notes. So we don't just want that. So we're going to add a step. Out to the corner 1, Statue of Liberty, up 2, high onto the left shoulder 3, okay? Looking over your left shoulder 4, down the telescope. Step 5, slide your left thumb back into position. And I'm going to explain to them that you're going to slide all the way back, your hand all the way back, and your thumb all the way back to where the very first tape is. That's the tape that's furthest away from you, okay? Okay, where our thumb's going to be right there by that first tape right next to it, and it's just going to peek up just a little bit over the side, like the sun's starting to rise. Just a little bit. We don't want it to be down here, because then there's no sun. We don't want it way up here, okay? Look like you're hitchhiking them. We don't want that. We want our left thumb right here, okay? Right there. And then just let your fingers rest above for right now. And one thing you want to remind them, don't crush the grape. Imagine there's a little grape right here. And I always get into a debate with them on which is better, green or red grapes. I'll leave that to your own personal opinion, okay? We all know red grapes are the best. Anyway, so I'm going to bring my left hand up into position. I'm not going to crush the grape. The reason that they crush the grape is because they're trying to hold up the instrument with their left shoulder because they're not used, with their left hand rather, because they're not used to using their shoulder and jaw, right? So the more you can get them to support it, do those jaw flexes. That exercise is going to make it a whole lot easier, okay? So don't crush the grape. Don't be a grape killer. Now it's time for them to actually start learning these notes, which is a really exciting moment. I draw the strings and the diagram on the board. I'm doing everything by rote typically in the beginning. Although you could start, like if you use Essential Elements or Sound Innovations or whatever method you use, they start in a very sequential way. But for me, these first couple weeks are gonna be just kind of mostly just by rote. And then we're gonna really get into reading the notes in front of us. But I'm going to draw the strings up on the board. Here's my very crude diagram of what I would put on my board, but I have all the strings labeled, in this case for violin. I have the D string and the A string with all of the notes labeled. They might wonder about the fourth finger tape, and we're just going to tell them we're not worrying about that right now, but you can imagine, you just use your pinky for that. We're not going to worry about the pinky for now, but we will get to that, okay? And then you're explaining then how the fingers correspond. You might even write like a 1 next to that very first tape, a 2 right here, a 3, or if it were cello, a 1, a 3, a 4. If it's bass, 1, 4, and then the open string, which would be next. If you were on the D string, right, going to the G string. But in this case, we're using this. So I'm going to have them identify their hand. So shake out your left hand rather. They'll get confused like I just did between the hands. Good. Say it with me. First finger. Good. First finger. 2 fingers. Say second finger. Good. Second finger. And next is what? Third finger. Very good. And finally is what? Fourth finger. That's right. We don't need to worry about the thumb because it's not going to be playing anything. It's our guide throughout this whole process. The thumb is really important though. Okay. So I'm going to take them back then to playing position. All right. And I'm going to have them put their fingers down. This will be a little messy at first, but we'll get through it. And I'm going to show them first how it's going to work. So I go through my steps. Step 5, slide my left hand back into position, not crushing the grape, jaw flex. Again, why the shoulder rest really helps. Okay, my left thumb is right here. All right, and then I'm going to tell them, all right, I've got my thumb right here, a little bit of the sun peeking out and over. I'm also telling them, hey, your scroll should be even with your nose, not well below it. We should see a little bit of your armpit. Whoo, we should smell your armpits, okay? But if it's up too high, then you look like, I always tell them you look like you have like one of those shirt cannons at a sports arena where they shoot off this, the shirt, right? For the spectators. We don't want that either. We just want it nice and level, okay? So this is a good time to remind them of that as well, okay? So anyway, slide the left thumb back into position. Then we're gonna put our pointer finger down on that very first tape. Boom, right there. That's the tape that's furthest away from your nose. And then go ahead and put what we call our second finger on the next tape. Good, right there, excellent. Just holding this up where you can see it. Put it right on the center of the tape. This is where you're gonna start insisting on this, okay? Then we're gonna put the third finger right on the next tape, okay? And we're not going to worry about the pinky, but it would go on that next spot if we wanted to do that. Now, have you crushed the pizza? Do you have a pizza platter where you're walking around with a pizza platter? Fix that pizza platter. Don't crush that. Great. Go back and you can have them model it right here. Okay, have them tap their fingers to keep the tension out. Tap, 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 tap. Good, slide your left hand back into position. Thumb, just a little bit of the sun peeking over. Good, and let's try making some sound. So put down just your pointer finger, none of the other fingers. Pointer finger and your thumb are right there. Thumbs up in the right hand, plant your thumb at the corner of the fingerboard. Let's hear what that sounds like. Good, sounds like that. Now if it sounds like this, which there'll be a lot of kids who get that at first, they're not pushing hard enough. So if you're getting a dull thud, kind of like my head when I knock on my own head, that's why, right? So you're gonna push that finger down to get a nice resonant sound, right? And then I'm gonna push down my, my second finger for F sharp. I'm gonna keep both fingers down. Don't lift up the other one, keep them both down in the case of F sharp, okay? If you're getting a dull thud, push down a little bit further, okay? Then how about third finger? Push that down. Again, all fingers should be down. We don't want it like this, even though it will still sound the same. Get them in good habits of hand frames, okay? Okay, and they've tried them all. Good, okay, concert rest position. And then they're really gonna be, I feel it in my shoulder, right? And you can say, that's normal. Remind them that it's normal. Otherwise, they might go home and say, it hurts. I want to quit. We don't want that. We want to feel great about it. You can tell them it's going to feel like you're working out, you know. It's going to feel like you're exerting some effort here, and that is normal. That's okay. So then you can have them do the exact same thing on the A string, and we can just remind them that, hey, it's just note letter names. It's like walking up a flight of stairs. It's just one letter after the next. So if you're on the D string, D, you go up to the next stair. E comes next in the alphabet. Then what? F. In this case, we call it F sharp, not F hashtag, F sharp. And then next is G. What comes after G? Not H, A, right? Okay, exactly. And then, so this is where I get into, I'll remind them that, all right, now the musical alphabet's different. It's A, B, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, D, E, F, G. Those letters, we might put sharps or flats, but they just keep going round and around. And we don't have H's, it's just those notes that you have to worry about. A, B, C, D, E, F, G, those 7 notes, right? Then it repeats. Okay, so how fast can you say it? A, B, C, D, F, G, A, B, C, D, F, G, A, B, C, D, E, F, G. All right, backwards, G, F, E, D, C, B, A, and then they go, huh? Right? But you get them used to saying it backwards as well, okay? Have some fun with that. But then it'll help this to make more sense of, oh, I add a finger, and it's the next note in the sequence in the alphabet. Okay, got it, okay? So then I'm gonna teach them what I call daily drill number 2. Daily drill number 2. So I'm gonna have them go through their steps. I'm gonna demonstrate it first though for them that, okay, first I'm gonna get my hand in position, slide your hand back, and again, this is after practicing many times, getting set in playing position, right? Okay, so we're gonna pluck open D, what we call open D, which is 0, no fingers. D, D, rest, rest. I'm gonna put down my pointer finger, 1, which is E, rest, rest. 2 fingers, F sharp, rest, rest. Then G, G, rest, rest. Back down, F sharp, rest, rest. E, rest, rest. Then 2 Ds. Someone will be really confused at first and just trying to coordinate that. That's a lot to try to put together. So get around, help them. This is where you want to really have your hands out there trying to help move fingers and just make it as loving as possible to help them through that process. Then you go to the A string, you do the exact same thing, okay? A, rest, rest. Then B, B, rest, rest. Then C sharp, rest, rest. D, D, notice right on the tapes, and C sharp, make sure it's covering the tape completely. 1 finger B, rest, rest, A. Imagine how much harder this process would be without finger tapes, with no finger tapes, especially with the quick nature of the notes decay when they're playing pizzicato. By the way, that's a term I'm introducing to them. We call plucking pizzicato. Say it with me, pizzicato. It's an Italian word. Italian is the language of music, oftentimes, and one of the big languages that we use. Okay, but can you imagine how hard that drill would be if they didn't have the tangible tapes to show them. And again, I'm not going to put on bright tapes. I don't like the bright tapes. Personally, this is just me. I know there's some people who do different color tape for each note. I like the nice classic black tape, and it's cheap. You can get it for a few bucks, and it helps them to see where it's at. Again though, I've put these tapes down weeks in advance, or at least days in advance, to get it in the exact right spot, down to the cent. I've checked it. So that way, I'm confident as long as the instrument is in tune, it's going to be correct or very close. It's a very helpful guide. And again, as they go further in their orchestra experience, I'm going to gradually take those off strategically when I feel that they're ready for that. Notice by putting the two rests in between the notes, by going D, D, rest, rest, it gives them a minute to get their fingers set to think about the next note. Right? And if they're getting a dull thud, remind them to push down a little further, firmer. You might have to come around and say, and actually push their finger down firmly enough. Don't crush the grape, no grape. Another drill you could do is have them do that same drill, go tap your thumb. One finger to keep the thumb loose, tap your thumb. F sharp, tap your thumb. G, G, tap your thumb, and so on. You can do the same thing on the A string. You might only get, though, to one of the strings that day, and that's all right. And this might be as far as you get on the second day. If you're able to get further, though, now you know you got a whole lot of notes, a whole lot to be able to teach a whole lot of different songs to the kids. A lot of the basic hot cross buns, scales even upcoming, which is really exciting. So let's talk about daily drill number 2 on the cello. Now here's the thing, as your violins and violas are doing the jaw flex, I like to use that as an opportunity for the arm flex, the left arm flex in the cellos and basses. And so I'm going to have them bring that nice C shape that they set over here on the left bout here of the instrument, upper bout of the instrument. I'm going to have them bring that up and around and kind of freeze with that position nice and relaxed. Now notice we want the shoulders nice and relaxed. I sort of instruct them, all right, we're just going to slide the hand back. A lot of times I will put a sticker, I don't have one on this particular cello right now, but I will put a sticker right here in the middle between the first and third finger tape. I do not put a second finger tape down. It's similar to kind of the violin, viola situation where the natural note, the F natural or C natural, we'll place that finger. We'll work on audiating and placing that finger in the right place. So again, we're bringing that left hand back. Oh, common mistake that happens is that cellists will want to play with a flat hand. Okay, we don't want that. What we want is a nice curved C shape in the left hand because you play the cello, it's cool. C for cello, C for cool. And we want to make it nice and round. And this will take some work. It's not easy, especially in the beginning phases for them to get this, but this curved shape, and we kind of talk about it looking like a rainbow. We want that C shape, or like you're holding a can of pop. We don't want to crush that can of pop because it's going to go everywhere. That'll be an absolute mess. The other way that I refer to this left hand position, this left hand flex, is also pledge of allegiance. It's like when you do the pledge, only normally you do it with the other hand, but put the hand over your heart. This is kind of like the Pledge of Allegiance, only the Pledge of Allegiance. So where they're going to bring the left hand up like this in a position. They always think that that's pretty funny. But it's a good reminder that we want to keep it up and keep our armpit open. For cellos and basses, it's going to take a little bit of effort to get those fingers down and to really firmly get them pushed down firmly enough. It's going to take a little bit of time developing that skill. So just let them know, hey, it's all good. We're going to work at that. We're using muscles we don't normally use. In the case of the daily drill number 2 for cello, we've done the same process that we've done for violins to get them set up. But the cellos are all ready to go. We have our fingers hovering, and again, the thumb always stays with second finger, generally speaking, on the cello. So your thumb is behind second finger, like we talked about, between those first 2 tapes. And I'm going to play D, D, rest, rest. Push down first finger. Then next is F sharp, the next 2 fingers. And again, I'm bending my thumb. Next is G. Don't crush the pop can. Then back down. You're going to find 4th finger is the trickiest for them, especially in the beginning stages. Next is D, M. what you're going to hear most likely once they do it a few times is D, D, E's pretty good, maybe a little thuddy, and then it gets, they get that, and then one trick you can do to help them get enough pressure into the string just so they understand, just for one time you'll tell them we're going to always put all 4 fingers down and have our thumb in place, but just so you can sense how much weight you need into the string, just put down your pinky once and experiment. Keep plucking and just push it down until you get the note to really speak firmly. You're going to lift these fingers up. I call that pinky trick. So when we're having a hard time on that, I might say pinky trick, let's practice it. Go ahead on your own, or we could do it together depending on the circumstance. But that's going to help to get them to understand how much weight they need to put into the left hand to really get that note to sound. It's tricky. Same for double bass. It's tricky in those beginning stages. But again, by curving the hand, it's going to help a lot. And hopefully your student, has a hand that's pretty well suited to the instrument. That helps as well. But again, the appropriate sized instrument is really important as well. If they're on too big of an instrument, this part can be tricky as well. So now we're more or less maybe to like a 3rd day-ish. And again, you're reminding kids, go home and play that for your family. Show them how to do it. That's always a hoot. If you ever have a concert where you can have the kids switch place with their parents, to have them come up on the stage and have the parents try it, it's hilarious. Parents have a whole newfound appreciation for what their kids have done by the end of this whole process too. Now you can even teach them another song. Now they're ready to do the classic hot cross buns, right? So again, every day you're going through the process. I've got my chair like this. I'm just sitting this way so you can see a little bit better what I'm doing. But out to the corner 1, I'm sitting up nice and tall. Statue of Liberty. The Statue of Liberty doesn't slouch. She's up nice and tall. Out to the corner 1, up 2, high in the left shoulder 3, look over your left shoulder 4, down the telescope. Step 5, slide your left hand back into position. Oh, yep, no shirt launchers, all right, and no melting violins either, okay. Some of you look like you're digging the ground. Don't do that, right? Get it even with your nose, that kind of thing, right? And then I've got my fingers hovering like little UFOs over the strings, okay? They stay close, not far away, but close. Okay, bring back here, tap a few times. Jaw flex, good. Spider taps, we call it spider taps. I've done that. Good. Slide your left hand back into position. Good. Tap your fingers over here too. And again, this is to promote relaxation. Tension is evil in string playing, so we don't want them tense. If you see that, oh, no vampiritis. I've come to take your violin. Don't do that, right? Okay. Loose shoulders. Tapping fingers, right? Nice straight wrist. This is where I reiterate, we want a nice straight wrist. We call this a stop sign. Don't let your stop sign get run over. It's kind of a Suzuki approach to call it that, right? We also don't want it stuck out like the Aflac goose. Aflac, it's not that either. It's just a nice straight wrist, nice and relaxed, okay? So I'm doing those steps to help them keep it relaxed. So let's talk hot cross buns now. All right, thumbs up in the right hand. Once we've practiced this many times, getting the hand into position. Plant your thumb right here. Good. Point your finger out. Now we're gonna actually start in F sharp. I'm gonna have the notes up on the board. And I've got the fingerboard map that I'm referencing, which they have that they're taking back and forth every day. They've got a photocopy of that. Okay. So and I would demonstrate. I'm gonna start with 2 fingers. So this song has 3 notes. F sharp, which is 2 fingers on the D string, E, and D. Now they might, again, get confused on which string they're on. Make sure they're on the 2nd string. You can even have them find that. Okay, find the D string. Good. Good. Now put your 1 down. Keep plucking. Put it on the tape, right on the tape. Get a dull thud. Push down firmer. Good. 2nd finger on the next tape. Don't crush the grape. Stop sign. Good. Okay, now listen to how I do this. This is going to be F sharp, E, D, or 2, 1, 0, then I have D again, 4 Ds. D, 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 E, 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 F sharp, E, D. That's how that's going to work. Then you have them try it with you. They love hot cross buns. This is a huge one. They're going to be excited and motivated to play that one well. Hot cross buns could be played on the A string as well. For now, I'm mostly focusing on the D and A strings across all of the instruments because we can all play them, we all have them. But I don't want to neglect the other strings either. Obviously, a viola signed up to play the C string, so maybe have them play hot cross buns also on the C string to build that pride on each instrument. Or the violins on their E string, the basses, learning to play the lower strings as well. But I'm going to spend most of the time also really focusing on the D and A strings here in the early days, because all of those strings are in common with one another. And of course for bass, we're going over to the G string as well. Now, this is really fun because now they can also play Mary Had a Little Lamb, right? There are all kinds of little 3-note songs that we could play, but Mary Had a Little Lamb is a really fun one, right? And so I'm going to have them then play that song too, and I would demonstrate that. So we're going to go out to the corner 1, up 2, high in the left shoulder 3, look over your left shoulder 4, down the telescope. Okay, slide your left thumb back into position. Check that your scroll is level with your nose, tip of your nose. For this song, we're also going to put 2 fingers on the D string. And again, I have the notes on a page in front of them. I also have it on the board. I've written most of these on the board. I'll put it up here in the video as well for you to be able to see. But I would play Mary Had a Little Lamb, and I would demonstrate it. So this one starts on F sharp, and would talk them through, finding it, pluck your D string, 1 finger on the E, the note E, not open E. They might get confused. This is this E. This is a lower E, lowercase e, and then F sharp. Okay, and then here's what it sounds like, students. So just listen in concert rest position. Okay, I'm going to play for you. F sharp, E, D, E, F sharp, F sharp, F sharp, E, 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 F sharp, F sharp, F sharp, F sharp, E, D, E, F sharp, F sharp, F sharp, F sharp, E, E, F sharp, E, D. This one's tricky. Because there's more movement on the line. It's not quite as straightforward as hot cross buns. Hot cross buns goes down and then right back up. So just be patient with them a little bit. As you are playing through that, have them also point to the music, put their finger on the page, and actually say the note names with you. F sharp, E, D, and sing them. They might not want to do it. Make them do it, okay? You can say, this is what professional musicians do. Is when we're learning to read, we're looking at the notes and we're really reading. And that helps you to see that they're moving their finger and that they're tracking. And then if there are special circumstances where students need maybe a little extra help and you need to help them, not a problem. Then this also helps you to be able to recognize what you need to do, a diagnostic tool for you as a teacher as well. I cannot emphasize enough the importance of having them point and touch and say the note names along with you during these beginning phases. So at this point, I would introduce the D major scale, and this might be getting into the 4th day or so. It just sort of depends on kind of your flow and whereabouts you get to. But for this, they've learned to put 3 fingers down on each string. But the way I would introduce the D major scale, and I have them shout out, the D major scale, shout out, D major scale. They're all pumped about this. So the way I introduce it is, okay, let's do daily drill number 2. We're going to go back to that. And again, daily drill number 2, we're going to start with that, like every day along with the other drills, daily drill number 1, sequencing through daily drill number 1, the open string plucking down here, up into playing position. And I'm gradually moving quicker through that now by the 4th day because obviously they have more experience. Now you might have a kid come in and join you midway, maybe that wasn't there in the beginning. Good opportunity to have maybe one of your more advanced students help, or if you have a TA for them to help. Or old-fashioned, you just do the best you can and help them out, try to get around a little bit more back there to be hands-on to show them. Maybe coordinate a special time where you can help them a little bit out of class too. We want everyone to be successful. Then I'm gonna have them do daily drill number 2, and we're gonna do just the D string ones. So remember that's D, D, rest, rest, E, E, rest, rest, F sharp, rest, rest, G, G, rest, rest, F sharp, rest, rest, E, E, rest, rest, D, D. Good, feet flat on the floor. So it'd be a great time to maybe have them stand up if they're violins and violas too. Alternate between standing and sitting. Right now, for the sake of the video, I'm just sitting, so I'm in frame. Then you go to the A string, go through the steps. Step 1, out to the corner, 2, 3, 4. Slide your left hand back into position. Scrolls even with your nose, feet are flat on the floor, sing it nice and strong. You just keep saying those things. They pour out of my lexicon because I've said it for so many years. And So just keep reminding them of that. We all need that repetition, okay? They're in playing position. There's a look to playing the violin. There's a look to playing the viola. There's a look to playing the cello. There's a look to playing the bass. Get that look that you're wanting, okay? Posture-wise, all right? Then you're going to do the same thing on the A string. So A, rest, rest, B, rest, rest, C sharp, helping them to push down, curve your fingers, D, you're gonna remind them that your fingers are curved, C sharp, one finger B, then A. And I just kind of remind them, your fingers are kind of curved, it's like a cardboard box, it's just bent like this, they have a little bit of bend to them, and then you're putting your fingers down, kind of making a C shape again, which we've done from the very beginning. Now, we put together those two drills. And you can even ask kids, what do you think that makes that we just talked about? Oh yeah, the D major scale. Okay, so we go through our steps to go into playing position. Then we play our D major scale. Ready, go. D, rest. One finger E, and I refer to them as note names. F sharp, rest, rest. G, now freeze, go over to your A, find your A, next string over to the right, good. A, might have to help kids find that string. One finger B, next is C sharp, next is D, then on the tape, center your fingers on the tape. Next is one finger, rest, rest, freeze. Now we're going to plop, it's kind of a Suzuki term, we're going to plop all three fingers on the D string, and we're going to write on the tape. And ready, push down nice and firm, go. G, this will take practice, it's tricky. F sharp, good job. E, complimenting them all the way. D, great job, concert rest position. So class, what was the hardest part about that process? And raise your hand if you can tell me. Putting the G down after the A, right? Plopping all three fingers down is tough. Adding the fingers as you're going up is easy. The descending part of that scale is hard. So you're going to practice that many times. Again, you're going to cycle between that. Mary Had a Little Lamb, right? You're kind of going back and forth between some of these songs. So now at this point, we've gotten them onto the D major scale. We've gotten them onto Hot Cross Buns. Mary Had a Little Lamb. They're really playing a lot. This is probably somewhere around the end of the first week. Now, this is a lot of playing, and they're using muscles that they're not typically using in everyday life, right? And so they're going to feel it a little bit. And again, remind them that it is okay if you feel a little bit sore, that's normal. We don't want tension though. So again, you're going to keep an eye out for that because that's going to fatigue kids and really discourage them, make it really hard to play. You can do stretching activities to help them. All right, roll up your shoulders. All right, now let them go completely. Roll your head this way, just like everyday stretches that you might do in PE. All right, we're going to stretch out our hand this way. We're going to stretch it this way. A little bit of stretching and brain breaks are a big thing. Take this opportunity to talk about interests, about things that they're interested in, about maybe some Simon Says, just to get them onto following directions. I like a good game of Simon Says. Just be careful if the instruments don't get broken in the process if they're standing up to do that. But I'm going to alternate between standing and sitting. Maybe this is by the end of that first week, right, of them playing. I'm going to try to get them to do that daily drill number 2, cycling through all the original songs too, Ding Dong Bell and Daily Drill number 1, all that open string drill, just so we're keeping that fresh. But I'm going to try to get rid of the rest now in Daily Drill number 2. So we go through our steps: out to the corner 1, up 2, high in the left shoulder 3, jaw in the jaw rest 4, go for your left shoulder. And now I'm going to have them pluck 4 times on every note, not just 2 times, but 4 times. So like Daily Drill number 2, ready, go. D, 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 E, 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 F sharp, pushing down firmly. G, don't squish the grape. Back down. Daily drill number 2, all right? 1 finger E, and now 0 fingers. By this point, they're probably starting to get pretty good at that too, okay? Then I'll go to the A string. I do this exact same thing. Ready, go. A, B, 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 C sharp, C sharp, C sharp, C sharp, D, 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 back down. B now, and A. And again, sometimes kids try to be plucking with the thumb, make sure they're using their pointer finger. But now they've put it together without stopping. So now you can have them try to play the D scale without stops. So 4 times on every note, all right? Go through your playing position steps, and here we go. Ready, play. D, 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 E, F sharp. Again, I'm referring to letter names. I want them to read note names, not finger numbers only, you know? Then to A, go over the next string over to the right. Then B, then C sharp, then high D. Then we're going to go right back down the staircase, C sharp, 1 finger B, A, plop, all 3 fingers fast, go, on the D string, good. That'll take practice. F sharp, 1 finger E, straight stop sign, don't crush the grape, jaw flex, in the back, oh, I'm so tired. All right, now concert rest position. You can say good work, what a workout that is. So in working through our pieces, a couple considerations just to keep in mind for cellos. We're continuing to develop that 3rd and 4th finger strength through the pinky trick that we talked about and through just those daily drills, right? And so the student's playing D, D, rest, rest, E, E, rest, rest, F sharp, getting enough weight into the string with their left hand, G, G, and so on. Now, this is a great time to continue on to the D major scale, of course, and you can have them continue to play through these selections. Now, coming down, the descending part of the D major scale is tricky. All right? This is where it gets tricky, especially for cellos. They're going to plop the G. For basses, it's when they plop the F sharp, but plopping G. And you can kind of pause when you get to that moment a couple times and just have them practice. All right, pinky trick, push down. All right, so A, rest, rest. G, G, rest, rest. F sharp, rest, rest. E, E, rest, rest. D, D. And then as you transition your bass players to the left-hand position, again, we're just having them slide them up. And you can see I've got a 1st tape and a 4th finger tape. And it is very important in the beginning that your basses are spacing their fingers like so, where there's a big gap between 1 and 2, and then 2, 3, and 4 are really close together. Obviously, first you're just having them play drills with the fingers hovering. But once you do add in the left-hand notes, one of the most common mistakes I see is basses with all equidistant fingers. They should not be equidistant. There's a half step between fingers 1 and 2, and then fingers 2 to 4 is another half step, right? So this should be the same distance. This down here should be the same distance as this up here. That 4th finger is going to take a little practice getting strong at, and the good news is, good or bad news, however you look at it, basses got to learn to use that 4th finger right away, just like cellos, right? And so we make it cool. And then just remember that later when your violins and violas complain about using 4th finger, just remind them, hey, your cellos and basses learn this. So you can do it, you can do it. And then for, as we finally add in these left-hand drills, again, we're going through all the posture steps. The bass should be able to really, without much effort, just rest right up against you. You don't want the kids, though, to be without hands on the bass. Make sure that they keep it protected, otherwise that thing will go flying down. All right, and so when we go through the D major sequence, we have D, D for daily drill number 2, E, E, rest, big stretch between 1 and 2, and we put 2 and 4 together. This is going to be the tricky note at first for them, getting that F sharp. But again, you can use that pinky trick like we do with the cellos to put enough weight into the string. And then over to G, have them tunnel. Try to keep those fingers down if possible. Back to F sharp. This is daily drill number 2. E and D. Then when you do the next drill, the daily drill number 2, for everyone else it's the A string, but for this, I have the basses actually start first finger on the G string. So they're going to go A, fourth finger B. They're going to shift to C sharp second finger in third position, and then fourth finger D. And you can even have them test, play open D just to test to make sure you have them in the right spot. I have them shift right away. No sense in delaying that. Really, by the third, fourth day, we have them doing that. By second, third, fourth day, we have them doing that, right? So, and you can even have them practice B to C sharp, and just have them go between those two. Make it a little bass drill. Second finger, and then we add the fourth finger. It's really exciting once the basses can play a full D major scale. And once you put those 2 drills, the daily drill number 2, both phases of them together, it means that they can play a scale. I'm going to skip the rest just to demonstrate the point. They go to G. They shift to C sharp. And again, you've practiced that drill. And again, the bass is in a relaxed position. My shoulders are relaxed, not this. We don't want that, right? Just nice and relaxed. Notice their left hand is up nice and tall, just like in the cello. A lot of similarities between bass and cello in that regard. My elbow is up. The bottom of my elbow is perhaps a little bit lower like this, because obviously you don't want that. That would be uncomfortable. And it's a pulling sensation. I'm pulling on the string and pulling back, and it's actually very comfortable to play. But my elbow is up. Most common mistake, right, is this collapse thing. Don't let them do that. The Pledge of Bass Allegiance, okay? Just like the Pledge of Allegiance that we worked on, right? Keeping that left arm up into position. And when your violins and violas do a jaw flex, this is a great thing to have your cellos and your basses do. Just have them freeze in this position. I should also mention, make sure you have a stool for your basses. You don't want to be standing the entire class period. Take care of them. And don't let them feel like second-class citizens. You want them to feel the total pride of the orchestra program. Because the reality is, bass is a lot of times that stereotype of goofing off in the back of the orchestra room. Well, a lot of times it's because maybe we haven't given them challenging enough music. So think about that. The other thing is, are you really paying attention to them all the time? Give them that attention and make sure that they feel the love. Before we talk about the bow, the only other song then that I would really take the time to teach at this point to really get them started in that first week of playing is Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star. And they're going to be excited about this one. This one's complicated too, because you're going between the D string and the A string if you're teaching it on the D and A string, which I recommend. Or if it's the bass, the D and the G string. I would introduce this one. We're going to read it. I'm going to play it for you, and I want you to point and touch on the page and say and sing all the note names with me, okay? So I'm gonna go out to the corner 1. Again, I'm reiterating this all the time, all the steps. Slide my left hand back into position, scrolls even with my nose, feet are flat on the floor. Maybe we're practicing this standing a few times. We're alternating, okay? If we're violins and violas, thumbs up in the right hand, planting my thumb right here at the corner of the fingerboard, okay? And then I'm going to find my D string. Good, it's right there. Okay, point, say the note names with me, guys. Ready, go. D, D, then my A string. A, B, B, A. Plop your G, which they've practiced already in the D scale. G, G, F sharp, E, E, D. Then the next part is A, plop, G, G, F sharp, E. When they plop, they're putting down all the fingers. A again, A, plop them all. G, G, F sharp, E, then D, 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 A. This part's just like the beginning. B, B, A, plop your G. So we're getting really good at the plopping. The D scale helps. F sharp, E, E, D, and freeze. I also don't want them to put their instrument down right away. We're going to freeze when we get done with the piece until I say relax. And then, okay, then I'm going to have them play the same song with me. And we're going to really practice all of those steps together, doing it over and over again. And I'm going to, this is where we get into the concept of chunking music. I'm gonna work maybe just the first part a few times. D, D, A, B, B, A. Let's do that again. Good, that was really good. See if you can get more notes right this time. We'll try it again. Good, let's try it again. Until they're really confident on that. And then G, G, F sharp, E, E, D. The tricky line is the A, plopping G, G, F sharp, E, right? That gets really tricky, plopping those fingers. But that will help if you kind of go through that process of chunking the music into little bits. Now, they're gonna start to develop probably a little blister here, so that's the other reason, like, I've known some teachers who, they do pizzicato for an entire, like, semester almost. I mean, can you imagine? Think about that physically, you having to do that. My finger's I'm a professional violinist, right? But my finger is already a little bit sore just from doing this for a while, and I play all the time. But that is a lot of pizzicato. And the fact is, they're dying to get to the bow, right? So at the end of this first week, this is when I'm breaking things up a little bit. Oh, this next step they're excited about. They've been probably begging you since the moment they took the instrument out, right, that first day, in which you had to tell them, hold on, we'll get to it. The bow. And again, everybody sequences things differently. For me, if this is like a summer camp or, the first week of orchestra, I'm going to be, after I've gotten through the getting to know you days and, without instruments and all that, and we're actually playing for about the first week that we're actually playing, I'm going to start introducing the bow to these guys now because they're excited about it, and we can alternate. Here's the thing, we can alternate, and when we get exhausted from doing that left hand work and really heavy thinking, we can come over here and kind of shift gears and think about the bow. A pencil is a great way to start with this concept of the bow hold. And so even as they're learning other stuff, they don't even have to have the bow out yet. You can tell them, we're not gonna do that quite yet, but the eraser part, we're gonna pretend like that's the screw of the bow that tightens the bow. And we're just gonna work on how we hold the bow. So then I talk them through my approach to doing that, all right? And I'm gonna start with the violin and viola approach, which is very similar between the two. It's essentially just, right, like I tell them, we wanna be really relaxed when we do this, so shake out your right hand. We're gonna, right in the middle of this pencil, make sure it's a long enough pencil, we're gonna let our thumb droop just a little bit, kind of making like almost like a little J, like a little hook. And then I'm gonna put my two middle fingers in front of. Now, I know some people who teach it more like this. That's not good in my opinion, because then your hand is off balance. And I don't know any professionals that really play that way. Maybe you do, no offense if you do, but I think we have the most control if our thumb is right here in the middle with that J hook, and then these two middle fingers go directly over. That's how we're gonna make a little bunny, and we're gonna rest those right at your door knocking knuckles. Think about where you would knock on the door. That's where we're gonna put that. We don't want just a little bite, like we're gonna take a little bite out of it, like we're scared that our teeth will fall out. We want to really get those two middle fingers around. We also don't want it all the way down to here. We want them right there, setting on those first couple knuckles. Some people will mark the hands. I'm not a big fan of doing that. You can certainly do that if you want to mark up their hands, but if you really teach it well, you don't need to mark anything on their hand, in my personal experience, okay? Unless they're really struggling with the concept. So we've got that thumb hook, and we make this, and we got a little, oh, don't stab yourself in the eye, but look through that on the eraser end, okay? We don't want them to stab themselves in the eye. And then we're gonna set the pinky up on top like this, nice and relaxed, and then we're gonna set our pointer finger right on the very first knuckle. One of the common mistakes I see, actually even in orchestra teachers teaching this, is not being specific about where that first finger goes, and then your hand is crunched, right? That's why we get this collapsed pinky and thumb like this. We want our pointer finger to be right at the first knuckle, like so, okay? And then it rests really nicely, so it's kind of one kind of straight line going across, okay? They'll have to practice this lots, but you remind them, we make an O shape. It's like our little telescope, eraser end. Don't stab yourself in the eye, like that, okay? And all right, shake it out. And you can even have them go through this process. Okay, in our left hand, we're gonna imagine that's the tip of the bow like that, okay? This is the screw of the bow. We're gonna shake out our right hand, reach across the table. Make our hook right in the middle on the bottom, our thumb, nice and relaxed. Just the tip of our thumb, not the big part of our thumb, just the tip. Reach across, our two middle fingers right across on the door knocking knuckles, touching. And we're not gonna curl them in, they're just gonna droop over the side like a waterfall, like a waterfall. And then we're going to, you could really teach either one first, and then we're gonna put our pointer finger right on the first knuckle, not second knuckle, first knuckle, and then our pinky goes right up on top, close. Some teachers teach it with like a really big gap. I don't know, I don't play like that. You know, when you watch all the famous violinists and violists, cellists, and bassists, you know, it's a little different cello and bass, but the fingers are going to be quite close together on violin, viola. Now, not so close that it's like this. So there's a little bit of space. You can tell them, you know, like a construction paper width right between the pinky and the two middle fingers, because we really bow from the middle, and same from the first finger, that first pointer finger to the two middle fingers, like that, which allows us to be really flexible, and we want to be loose. And I should be able to come take it right out of your hand, okay? You know, you can even play a game. If you can't take it out of their hand, it's not loose enough. Again, I use humor a lot. It's an important ingredient. Nice, loose, relaxed fingers, like so. Okay, and they're going to practice this a lot of times. It's going to take time, but by starting it on a pencil, it's just a little easier to work with, and it leads to a little bit less frustration. And so you're pre-teaching, you're getting that idea going. Okay, so you're at least introducing this by the end of that first week. So we're working on Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star. We need a little break from that. They're ready to do the bow. They're excited about that. So let's do the bow. So first thing we tell them is, all right, you're not going to play until I tell you to play, and we're not going to touch the bow against the hair until I tell you to. And so then we're going to go through that process of taking the bow out of the instrument, out of the case rather, closing the case, zipping it back up, or latching it, putting it skinny side up again, making sure at the same time we grab out the rosin, okay, which is going to help us get the instrument to make sound. So next we're going to talk the kids through the tension on the bow, and kind of the parts of the bow though first. So I always explain to them, first of all, you know, this is horsehair. We don't want to touch the hair. They touch the hair, oils get onto the hair, and it makes it so it really doesn't function correctly anymore, and then that hair has to be replaced. And like that, the horse hair doesn't hurt the horse when it gets a little haircut, and then the hair is bleached in most cases. And so let's talk through the parts of the bow. All right, students, obviously it's made of wood, so you got to be careful with it. This part is the stick. Well, that's right. This part is the horsehair. That's right. This part down here, this big part, heavy part, it kind of, and yours might have like a little circle in it, is the frog ribbit, but it's the frog. On the frog is what we call the ferrule right here, and then we have the screw down here, sometimes called the tightening screw, or just the screw, and that will tighten or loosen the horsehair. I'm going to show you how to do that in a minute. Don't do it yet. This down here is the tip of the bow, or the point, also known as the point, or the tip. We have to be careful with that, because if you whack it into something, someone will get hurt. We never sword fight, so don't even think about doing that, okay? Don't do that. This is very expensive. Your folks won't be happy with you, and I certainly won't be happy with you if you do that. Your instrument will cry. Then I'm going to talk to them about, okay, let's find Pinocchio like this, okay? So that they get this idea. We're going to go righty-tighty to turn it to the right. We're going to go about 7 big turns to the right or so. And obviously, this varies a little bit. There are a lot of ways that you can explain this, but for me, I say it's going to be about the width of your pinky nail, the height rather of your pinky nail, like this, right in the middle of the stick. The stick should be smiling at you. So if it's just meh, if it's straight, you've gone too tight. And if it's frowning at you, you're about to break the bow and to crack it. So it's way too tight. And when we finish, we always want to loosen our bow every day as well, okay? And again, don't touch your horsehair, okay? So then I'll quiz them over what those parts of the bow were once again, just so we're onto that and kind of understanding exactly what's what with the bow. Following the parts of the bow, then we're going to start learning how to hold the bow. Now, this is really important. On the violin, viola, and cello, I start the students at the balance point. And this is the other term that I'll teach them in combination. So I can tell them it doesn't really matter which finger they do this with, but they can stick out a finger and find the spot where the bow balances out. That is the balance point. You could even put a sticker on there. I've done it that way before, just so that they know kind of where that is, or a little piece of tape. But if you don't have time to do that, that's okay too. But that's where I'm going to have them hold the bow. Now, basses, If it's French bow, I will also sometimes start them at the balance point. I tend to start them at the frog just because of the heaviness of the bow. I'm more of a German bow bass guy, but either way works. I've taught both. I play with both, but I kind of like the German bow just for the ease of pulling sound out of it. It gets a little bit trickier when you're off the strings and it's a little bit more technique to talk in the heterogeneous setup, but I think it's worth it. But back to this balance point idea. So we found that balance point, and I tell them, if your finger touches it just slightly, like your thumb, it's not going to kill it, but try not, don't want to rub your fingers up and down. And so we're gonna set that bow hold which we just practiced. We're going to set the tip of our thumb, the hook, the two middle fingers go around, and like a waterfall, go over the top. This is kind of a Bob Gillespie thing, playing at the balance point, and borrow this from Dr. Gillespie a bit. Then we're going to rest our pointer finger right at that first knuckle, just a little space, not much, it's really close. Then our pinky up on top like a little birdie. Again, we have our little bunny rabbit, bunny's listening, and then the bunny rests, the first ear right here on the first knuckle, and then the pinky curved, still kind of listening for anyone that might come up here. Okay, my thumb is nice and relaxed. I've got an O shape like that. Okay, we're going to practice that several times with the bow. And then at some point in that process, I'm going to talk to them about rosin, okay, which is just made out of tree sap. They always find that interesting. And we're going to go up and down the horsehair. First of all, this is something that you would just do really only a few swipes each day when you go to play. That's fine. If you notice a big cloud starting to form on your instrument, it's a little too much then. So relax and back off a little bit from the dust cloud, the rosin cloud. Okay, but we're going to go up and down, 6 or 7 times or so, and really get out there. And you can kind of work it in the tip. Sometimes that's a little bit looser plays, kind of working on, kind of like soap a little bit. One important note, new instruments, oftentimes the bows come completely unrosined, and that's really frustrating. Try to plan ahead for that. If you can get that taken care of over the, before the class starts, before you get your beginners going, that's going to make your life so much easier. But I've been in the place where I haven't had that opportunity, or maybe the kid moves in, or just whatever, it just doesn't happen. And so you'll have to have them rosin a lot. And if you have helpers, have them help with that. But if not, just tell them, okay, keep rosin, that's okay. Who else finding your instrument makes no sense? You can have them do a little test just to see. Then, okay, just test a little bit. They like that. Just test it up against the string, kind of down on your lap. Okay, yeah, mine's working, Then you'll have a few who don't have it working correctly, and they need to put a whole lot of rosin on. Then we'll go back to setting the bow hold a few more times. So have them go through that same process of setting the bow hold. So this is maybe one of the questions I get asked the most, which is how I set kids up with a good bowing setup. Spend a lot of time on the bow hand. And I'm telling you, working at the balance point makes all the difference, because eventually we'll move them down here. And especially by the end of the second or third week, that's, once I find that they're having a lot of success, I do that. But I've seen a lot of folks add a lot of contraptions to their instruments, toilet paper tubes, which are fine. Toilet paper tubes help. You can kind of like rubber band them into place, and then, kids then can go back and forth and practice that way. But I had kind of a hack, I found over the years ways of doing it without all the extra add-on things that work, quite frankly, really, really well. And so when we finally are ready to add the bow to the instrument, kids are really excited. You're going to kind of talk them through this and just tell them, hey, at first it won't sound the most pleasant. That's okay. We're going to work to make it a beautiful sound. So watch me a couple times. I'm going to demonstrate a lot of modeling, always model on all of your instruments. You have them up there. Out to the corner one, going through my steps in the playing position. Now, I'm going to have, for right now, I'm going to go back to spider position. I'm going to put my left hand on the shoulder of the instrument where the spider lives, okay? And then I'm going to take the bow, in the case of the violin and viola, and I'm going to rest it right at my bow hand, and I'm going to call that position 1, and I'm going to go down here and call this position 2, or spot 1 and spot 2. So spot 1 and spot 2. Now, I'm going to keep my bow exactly right in the middle. It's kind of like a train. We want it to stay right on the tracks all the way out to the tip, okay? And you notice my elbow opens a little bit as I do that. It's going to close and it's going to open. But I'm going to go all the way from this position 1 or the spot 1 to spot 2 out here. Okay? And you can have them lift and set it there, go between the two, and do almost as Simon says. Simon says, spot 2. Spot 1. I didn't say Simon says. You know, have fun with it, right? But look what it's doing. It's tracing a straight line for them, and they're not having to add complicated left hand yet. They're just focusing on the open strings. And then you can tell them, so watch how I do this. Now I'm going to connect those dots after you can imagine these are 2 dots. Dot 1, dot 2. Spot 1, spot 2. Okay? And now I'm just going to connect the dots. You try. Ready, go on the A string. Have them connect the dots. All the while, we've set the bow hold down in this position, right? We've gone into playing position. We're alternating, going back and practicing that lots, shaking it out, getting all the tension out, setting our position. They're going to sound unpleasant at first. And you tell them that's okay. If you're getting a crunch, you're pushing too hard. It doesn't take very much force. Remember, the violin, the viola, the cello, the bass pushes back on your instrument, on your bow rather. So you don't have to push that hard. And then they go, oh, if it's too light, you're going to get this whistly sound. So just try to get just enough. Notice my bow elbow is drooping just a little bit under my bow thumb. So like if you think of where your thumb is in relation to your elbow, my elbow is just a little bit below the bow thumb. And then I'm going to connect. Like that. I'm going to connect those two positions, those two spots. Okay? Then we'll practice that on the D string. Let's go over to the D string and do that. And you can have them do every string. And then you could have them play daily drill number 1. Here's where that comes back again, daily drill number 1. So you can notice you're going to show them, all right, we're just going to rotate our shoulder just a little bit. We also don't want our elbow way up. Okay, this isn't like a deodorant commercial. I always joke with them and say that. But, you know, we just want our elbow just a little bit underneath the tip of our elbow, a little bit under the tip of our bow thumb. And we're going to play daily drill number 1. So here we go. 1, 2, daily drill 1, and go. And G, 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 D now. A, tilt your elbow. E, back to A, connect the dots. D, G, and then C, if you had C, 3, 4. In that way, then you're connecting the dots and you're getting them to play straight by doing this little Simon Says, this spot 1, spot 2. Really helps. It's a real kind of hack to be able to teach straight bowing. And by them looking at it and playing just open strings, it really helps. Take a break from the bow for a while. Go back to some of your old drills that you've been working on. You know, daily drill number 2, D major scale, Mary Had a Little Lamb, Hot Cross Buns, all the songs that they've already learned how to play. Take a break and go back and forth between these two. Practice just setting the bow hold sometimes and then setting it down and then coming back. So of course we're going to continue wanting to work on the cello bow hold as well. And we're going to go through a very similar process of, again, working with the pencil, which is very helpful to have that independent of everything else. But let me just kind of walk you through what I have the cellos do. And obviously we're tightening the bow just like we did before, and we're teaching them to loosen the bow. That's so important. Please be on them about loosening the bow. Otherwise, you're going to have a lot of repair bills where the hair gets stretched out over time, and the bow is just trashed by the end of every single school year, and in some cases, not repairable, unfortunately. I'm also going to have them find that balance point that we talked about. Shake out that right hand, and again, the left hand, they're just kind of holding the stick up like this, vertically, like a table, reaching across the table at the balance point, making the hook. And the only difference here, as we make the hook, is we have more of a downward motion. And I explained this, like I think back to, my mom always had these big latex rubber cleaning gloves when I was a kid. And they kind of have this molded posture. And that's sort of what we want with the cello as well. The fingers are going to be a little bit more equidistant with cellos, but we're going to set our thumb here at the balance point, and there's more of a downward slope of like the entire hill, if you will. If you think of this as a hill, a ski hill, coming down like this, okay? And then perhaps just a little bit more space here in the index finger. And again, to each their own, but we're gonna set that thumb. There's a little bit of bend in the thumb. Our two middle fingers right here, we pop it across and we flop towards the pointer finger, okay? And then our pinky rests over. We don't want to put it up on top, but instead we want to put our pinky just a little bit over, and this gets more weight into the string for the cello. It's an important difference when playing the cello. Just like violin and viola, we're going to continue this spot 1, spot 2 business, okay? So where they sit here. Now, one thing I add to the cello is just to help them keep things a little bit straighter, since sometimes it's hard to see. I advise them to practice in front of a mirror. That always helps. Honestly, this could be a good use of, if you're open to it, to smartphone, them using the camera, as long as they use it responsibly, to watch what they're doing in the moment. But they can reach across with their left hand at the tip and spot 1, and then lift and go to spot 2. Spot 1, spot 2, spot 1, spot 2. And then, just like we did before, eventually have them connect those dots. Like so. And eventually, we can have them remove that once they get confident at that setup. Bring that C back, the C position up here. Like so. We can have them do the same thing on every string. Every string. And this is where we tell them, this is why you pick cello right here. Okay? That beginner position, that beginner bow hold, really helps to promote a relaxed bow hold, especially on cello. Now, I know technically we're kind of out towards the tip of the bow, which in a lot of traditional cello playing, we're going to play a lot more at the lower half of the bow, which is one really important difference and distinction. But I think what you get in the payoff of having that nice, perfect looking bow hold is worth every bit of that. And then they learn to make a nice sound even out at the tip of the bow, which is hopeful. So I found this to be a really successful cello strategy. Bass bows, the bass bow hold. Obviously, two different schools of thought on this. You have the French bow, looks like an oversized cello bow, and then the German bow, right? With space down here for your whole hand. It's very similar, but just a slightly different take, kind of a sideways approach on the bow hold. You can see I've got this little rubberized grip going over this. This just helps to make it easier and less harsh for the students if they are doing French. I teach German bow to my bass players, but again, to each their own. There's not a right or wrong. It's just individual personal preference, and so you might have a preference one way or another. When I am working on the bass bow hold, you could certainly have your students just at first hold that at the balance point, just to kind of get the idea. Pretty much the exact same bow hold as the cello. Just a little bit more weight and maybe just a little bit more width between the fingers. But again, we're not squeezing anything. We're nice and relaxed. I like to tell the students I should be able to come by and steal your bow out of your hand without a problem, be able to rip it out of your hand. So very similar approach to that rubberized glove that the cello uses, that mental image. And then we're just going to slide it down to this little grip that's right at the tip of the letter U, like on cello. And then it's very, very much possible for basses to start bowing then, using that bow hold. For me, obviously there's no reaching across to help with this. One thing you can do is you can individually, as the orchestra director, get around just to make sure that these bows are going straight. But just tell them to keep it parallel to the ground and to the bridge, like so. Okay. So with the German bow, again, you're going to want to make sure the bow has good tension on it, that has been tightened, as we discussed before. Once you're in that place, obviously German bow, I like it for its relaxing, it's very relaxed hold. It's kind of much more true to the instrument, the viol, right? The family of instruments that our traditional string instruments have evolved from. But a few things, we're going to want your hand to rest right here, almost thinking about holding like a pencil, a nice round O shape, our thumb up on top. It's almost like the French bow hold, to be honest with you, but then just kind of turned on the side with maybe a little bit more curvature and your thumb up on top. But we think of like holding a pencil up at the top there where our fingers come together. One common mistake I see is bassists put their thumb on the side. You have no ability to add weight to your bow if that's the case, right? So, and then the other fingers are just kind of resting along the side. One other common mistake is to put the finger all the way through. We don't want that. Okay, we want nice and relaxed. We also don't want the bow jammed up against the palm of the hand. We want there to be a little bit of room for it to live and for there to be flexibility in your bow hold and your bow motion. Okay, promoting as relaxed of a setup as possible. When I bow with the German bow, I think your students will find it easier at first. Certainly there's some other challenges that come along later with the German bow, namely, trying to play spiccato, brush strokes, getting off the string. But I like the quality of sound very much that comes from the double bass paired with the German bow. So, and certainly you can have your students play the daily drill as well. Okay, so you have the C's from the violas and cellos. They get a nice big sound, making sure the bow is parallel to the bridge. And then the E string, which we've all come for, right? Where they get that nice sound. So now you're solidly into week 2. For me, I'm going to be a couple days at this point into the second week by the time I'm doing all of these things. And again, it's more about take your time and have fun with the kids, okay? I think sometimes we feel pressure that I got to get onto all these things, oh my gosh, and they have to learn 3rd position and 9th position and 3-octave scales down the road. And like, just take your time. If you really take your time in these beginning stages, it pays off greatly. I'm going to spend a lot of time now going back and forth between just holding the bow, doing basic open string work, them echoing me. All right, I'm going to do 4 Ds. Ready? You echo me. Ready, your turn. D, D, D. Good job. Now A string. You echo me. Ready, go. A, 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 A. I'm going to do a lot of that back and forth just so we're getting on to the general approach of the bow. I'm not going to include the left hand too soon. I'm going to take my time to develop those. We're going to keep working lots of pizzicato, but again, I don't want their finger to turn into a bloody nub, so we're going to spend time working on that bow too. Kind of by, I don't know, 2nd, 3rd day of the second week, maybe even the beginning of the second week, you're starting to put some songs the left hand with the right hand, and this is exciting because they're pumped to do this, I assure you, by this point in time. And so we're going through our playing position steps. All of our drills we've done, we sequence through all of them in an increasing difficulty and come back to the ones that you think really help. The daily drill number 2 is going to be really helpful in adding the bow. So I'm going to do that here. So I'm going to start on my D string, and I'll demonstrate to them once. So watch me how I do this, students. I'm going to go like this. Ready? D, D, rest, rest. One finger. Rest, rest. Rest, rest. Rest, rest. Back down. Rest, rest. Rest, rest. Rest, rest. And then they can put the instrument down. When I say don't let them put it down too soon, we'll make them all release together at the same time. They're going to have issues with that at first, whereas then where you get that very stereotypical, oh so pleasant string sound, right? Well, it's just a lack of coordination between the left hand and right hand. So just don't push a little bit harder on your left hand, but keep your right hand loose. Problem is that our hands like to mimic one another. So if I'm pressing firmly on my left hand, my right hand might want to press hard. Don't press hard in the right hand. Keep your right hand loose. You can have them practice connecting the dots over and over again. Just open strings. Open strings are going to be your friend. Connecting the dots or correcting spot 1 and spot 2 are going to be very helpful. But eventually that's going to help them get rid of that unpleasant sound like that to making it more pleasant. And they just need lots of reps. Back down, back down, back down, and one really helpful thing to continue doing is modeling as much as humanly possible. And when I model the bow hold, I will do it in mirror image actually. So like to you, think like from your vantage point, it helps to see it set as if you were looking in the mirror for the kids. And I explain, I'm going to be your mirror image here, and it helps so much for them to be able to process that. Right, hook here, boom, like that. In the case of violin and viola. And I recommend doing that often and getting good at doing the mirror image setup, because it really helps them to be able to see exactly what it's supposed to look like. You might even put big pictures of your bow hold or your hand or someone else's if you're, if you don't trust your bow hold on a particular instrument, your non-dominant instrument. Take a picture and put a professional's bow hold. Ask a friend to model it. But modeling helps a ton. Now, once the students are finally ready to move to playing in the left hand, and you're working through some of these bowed songs, or some of these basic songs with the bow rather, it's going to be a little bit tricky at first for them to coordinate both. One really common problem is twisting down here at the torso, and we don't want them to do that, but we just want them to line up their fingers. And for instance, if it's the D major scale, they're making sure that they push down firmly enough, right? Okay, they're making sure that they push down firmly enough to get that sound. If they have that sound, maybe they didn't notice that quite as much in the pizzicato, but now they're going to notice that. So have them do that pinky trick. Okay, pinky trick, just the pinky and echo me. And then put the other fingers down and apply the weight to all the fingers. And it helps them to realize, oh, I got to put that much weight into the string. And again, you can alternate, go back and forth between the spot 1, spot 2 business, connecting the dots, connecting the straight line. So if it gets hard for them, go back, make it easier. Go back to pizzicato, gradually add the bow. And you don't have to continue to stick with the hardest thing. Alternate and get off of the hot, hard spots and go back to the cold, easier, nice, loose versions of what they've learned so far. And it'll help them build that endurance. When it's finally time to add it all together in the bass, this is another great opportunity, kind of like the cellos, in which adding the left hand in is going to really make it obvious if they're not putting enough weight into the left hand fingers, which will be tricky at first. So like if you do daily drill number 1, there's E, then F sharp, lots of weight. If they get kind of that fuzzy sound that's very unappealing, they just need to put more weight into that pinky, and they need to curve their thumb. If it collapses, it's like trying to squeeze a Coke can. It's really, they've crushed the Coke can and it has no more structural stability. So then G. If you went up to play the D scale, C sharp, having them check that they're landing in the right place, spacing between the fingers, and back down. And so on. This is going to help a lot in terms of your students being able to hear where maybe their hands are a little bit weak, and continuing to work those daily drills is going to help a ton with developing that left hand strength. So now you're at a place where they know a lot of music and they're getting pretty good at the bow. No reason necessarily to have to teach more songs. This music that you've already taught all pizzicato the first week, just keep using that. Now you can take those same songs and have them play it with a bow. Hot Cross Buns is a great one that they're excited to play it with a bow. Nice broad bow strokes, and you're going to help keep the beat because you're going to be modeling with them as they play, and you're going to sing it. So, and if you have a piano, going to the piano and playing along with them will also help for them to hear the pitch reference as well. So you don't have to be a great piano player, but consider doing that also. So I'm going to set my Hot Cross Buns. I'll demonstrate for them. We'll play it pizzicato first, where we're going to set the bow on our lap or on our music stand, depending on our instrument, and we'll just play it pizzicato first. Then we're going to add in the bow. All right, show me the dots. Simon says. All right, good. Now at your balance point, we've reviewed how to hold the bow, lots and lots and lots. We're going to have them play Hot Cross Buns. So echo me. I'm going to play it once. Ready, go. F sharp, E, D. Good. Make sure you're on the D string. Me again. My turn. Your turn. Hot Cross Buns. All right. right, now watch me on the next part. I'm not going to use a ton of bow. I'm just going to use a little bit of bow, only maybe half of it. I'm only going to go halfway the second octave. Your turn, go. And then broad bow stroke for the last one. Echo me, students. F sharp, E, D, go. F sharp, E. The other thing I have them do is I do have them lift their bow between lifts. And we talk about this as a bow lift or a bow circle, where we make a small circle, not a huge one, just a little one. We set it on the string before we start the next note. Lift and set. Lift and set. Little bows. And lift and let it ring at the end. So again, teaching them to freeze at the end of the piece. I call it like the mannequin challenge. That's so like 2013, I know, but you can kind of keep coming back to that, and because the music lives on even as you finish the piece. Very important. Now, right around the same time, it's a great time to introduce some really fun variations on Mary Had a Little Lamb. So I teach them Mary Lost Her Little Lamb, and basically turn it from D major into D minor. And we explain that, okay, minor to us, typically we're kind of trained to think that minor sounds sad and major sounds happy. And I play, a minor chord and a major chord for them to hear on the piano. And so we're going to change one of the notes. We're going to change Mary Had a Little Lamb, the F sharp, to F natural. And I mark it on my board, sorry for the crude penmanship here, but you can see the F natural right in there that I've kind of marked in with dotted line or dotted circle for them to see. And the way I explain this is, in the case of violin and viola, your second finger is going to go halfway between the first two tapes. It doesn't necessarily mean they're touching. If your student has kind of really skinny fingers, there might be a tiny bit of a gap. And here lies one of the issues and why string players never play in tune. We don't teach them that necessarily. And so the other thing is, obviously, we're using those tapes as a reference, and we're also playing along with them for them to hear, so they're going to make small adjustments, and they'll only get better at that. After 2 weeks, obviously, they're not going to be great at that yet. But over the course of a semester and then a year, you can teach kids to play very in tune, teaching them that it's halfway between the first two tapes. For cello, second finger is going to land halfway between the first two tapes. For basses, this is an important time to teach them that, again, even, fingers 2, 3, and 4 on bass live close together. There's a gap between fingers 1 and 2, and I see this all the time on double bass players where they're all just equidistant. That's incorrect. There should be a big gap between first and second finger, like so that second fingers are in tune. They're always too low in orchestras for that reason, okay? And so we're teaching them to have that gap even when they set their hand frame to get 1 and 4 down, that we're putting 2 in the correct place, 2, 3, and 4 in the correct place. Obviously, we're not using third finger, okay? Just fingers 1, 2, and 4 on bass. So F natural then, when we teach them Mary Lost Her Little Lamb, we're going to set that F natural, and we're just going to tell them you're going to play it the exact same way. Just instead, your second finger is going to live there. And they love this. They love this. Right? Sounds all sad. F natural, F natural, F natural. Again, I'm saying note names, not finger numbers. F natural, E, D, E, F natural, second finger low. F natural, E, E, F natural, E, D. Notice I'm trying to avoid saying finger numbers as much as possible. I want them to read the note names, to really get onto letter names and not simply reading finger numbers, okay? It's easy to go down that route. So it's okay to reference them, but just your main focus should be the note names, in my opinion. After that, I like to teach them Mary Found Her Little Lamb. Okay, so basically we go back to F sharp, and we can play it exactly the way that we played it originally, except for a couple note differences. So it's going to be like this. Ready, go. F sharp, E, D, E, F sharp, F sharp, F sharp, E, 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 then F sharp, A, F sharp, A string, A, then back to F sharp, E, D, E, F sharp, F sharp, good posture, F sharp. Now E, E, F sharp, E, D. So just at the end of that one line, it goes from, instead of 3 F sharps, it's F sharp, A, A, which is, again, what we're calling Mary Found Her Little Lamb. And then I have the kids play Mary Had a Little Lamb, Mary Lost Her Little Lamb, and Mary Found Her Little Lamb, all as like a little suite of pieces with a little piano interlude in between where I'm going to, play a little accompaniment. We would maybe play that for a little informants for their folks if it's a summer camp, or if there's a little, informants that we have at that point after the first couple weeks. And if not, that's okay too. Or maybe you take a little video and send that out to parents in your newsletter. This is a really good time to continue putting all of your pizzicato songs together with a bow. You can do the D major scale. This is a great time to play the D major scale. Ready, and again, we're playing at the balance point. Ready, go. D, D, rest, rest. E, E, the rest help right now still. F sharp. Next is G then. Rest, rest. Rest, rest. B. Rest, rest. Rest, 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 and then I would go back down the scale as well, focusing on the plopping the fingers as well. One important thing to note, on the violin and the viola, I'm teaching the students to slightly tilt the wood of the bow away from their nose. So we're tilting the wood of the bow just slightly away from our nose. In the case of cellos and basses, in the case of cellos in particular, just a little bit, we're rotating the wood of the stick slightly towards our nose, up this way. And it just allows for a little bit more control over the bow. If you notice, professionals typically do not play with a completely flat bow here. At that point, then, we are continuing to put more and more of the songs together. We've done the daily drill number 2. We've done D major scale that we can string all together. We've done hot cross buns. Now, it's really great to put Mary Had a Little Lamb all together. And by the way, on your D major scale that I just played a minute ago, you can eventually go to 4 notes at a time, gradually work your way up to that. But for Mary Had a Little Lamb and the Mary's Medley, as I call it, I'll go ahead and play through that for you so you can see how we go about that, okay? We practice this pizzicato lots, really continuing to work on the bow hold. And then once we are really continuing to coordinate those things, we'll put this together. And this is, again, kind of toward the end of the second week we're doing this. So, ready, go. Mary had a little E, F sharp, then I have a little piano interlude. All right, students, get set for F natural. Put your second finger in the F natural spot. Ready, go. To help them. Then I set back on F sharp. There'd be a little piano interlude if we were playing piano, or if not, just go on to the next part. F sharp, ready, go. F sharp, E, D, E, F sharp, F sharp, A. Freeze. And that's a huge accomplishment when they can get to playing that well, because obviously there's so much that goes into that. We're trying to move the bow, we're trying to move the left hand. Can you imagine if we had started the bow on the same day as the left hand, how overwhelming that is for kids? Maybe some kids would be able to do it, certainly, I'm sure some could, but for the whole, that would be really overwhelming. So you want to keep it as positive as possible, and this helps in terms of your scope and sequence, to make it very achievable for all of the students to be able to accomplish that shared goal and shared vision. The other piece that's really fun to put together kind of by the end of the second week, third week, maybe if you're getting into third week, is Twinkle with the bow. But again, one of the biggest problems that I oftentimes see is that kids bow sideways like this. Again, when you see that, go back to practicing that spot 1 and 2, tracking that straight bow. You could use a toilet paper tube that they decorate or whatever. I've done that, where they put the toilet paper tube here and they practice bowing kind of right in here like that. Certainly you can do that. They don't need a big apparatus that you buy to attach that. It's just not necessary. Just remind them that, hey, we're opening the elbow, okay? Now, by this time, in the case of violin, viola, and cello, basses, like I said, I usually do German, so they're already at the frog, and we're working on a really relaxed bow hold down there. But by this point in time, now I'm starting to move kids as they're getting comfortable with us down to the frog. But again, I'm making sure that we're connecting the bow stroke fluidly. This needs to look beautiful. It needs to have the look of a violinist, violist, cellist, bassist before I'm going to move the violins, violas, and cellos in this case down to the frog. And I'm still going to have them bow mostly in the same area, kind of from that balance point to the tip. So you can alternate. You can really stay. I know some people who stay on the balance point for months before they feel comfortable moving on. For me, I'm there for a couple weeks, and then I like to move the kids on and graduate them on. And I'll just tell them, hey, I'm going to tap you on the shoulder when you're ready to move on to your frog, when you graduate to the frog. And we don't make it discouraging if they're still working on it. Keep encouraging them that, hey, if you're not quite there, it's okay. This isn't a race. We're all going to get there. So just keep working at it. Because we don't want any kids to feel funny about that. So, but you're individualizing that way and helping students on an individual basis, kind of their needs. And then, so hopefully by that point, we're starting to get to the frog, and we're going to have them then at that point start to play songs like Twinkle, Twinkle, which is a big accomplishment, as I was saying. So we're going to start on the D string. I would demonstrate this. They're going to notice how much heavier it is here. So first they might be a little crunchy. You let them know, again, you don't have to push in. Again, have them do spot 1 and spot 2. Spot 1, spot 2, spot 1, spot 2. Okay, and we're really getting that détaché stroke, what we call détaché. I know some people who like to do martelé at this time. That works, to each their own. I don't do that because I just personally, I like the détaché stroke still at that point, but I do get to that a bit later, but not in the scope of the first few weeks. So then I'm going to have them play Twinkle. Obviously on cello, it's a big moment also for these guys and gals when they finally get to move to the frog as well. Now, in my experience, cello tends to be the tricky one because it's so much heavier. And again, this is why I'm a proponent of starting at the balance point. But it gets a bit tricky because their hand wants to collapse like this. And maybe you've seen this in students before. And again, it comes back to that pop and flop across. But as you bring the bow hand all the way down, we're going to have them set it as a true cellist, up nice and high here at the balance point, and then spider going down nice and loose, keeping that same posture, never on the screw of the bow, not collapsing. If it collapses again, watch for the thumb of the bow. Chances are really good that their thumb is not bent. And again, it should be just the tip of the thumb, and we're going at the tip of the letter U, not inside this letter U of the frog. Not there. Kids always want to do that. We want to be at the tip of the letter U, like so. And then it allows them to get a nice sound, and then I would focus their bow to being at the frog, from the frog to the middle. And then to the G. D. Have them practice those open strings so that they get the best possible sound. And again, model that great cello sound as much as humanly possible. It's an exciting moment when the kids get to put together all of their cello knowledge that they've learned, left hand and right hand together. It's going to take a little bit of time. And so if they're playing a piece like Twinkle, Twinkle, break it down into smaller chunks, just like we did with the violins and violas. Lifting our bow. Getting the most beautiful sound possible. And again, knowing that that plopping sensation is going to take some time for them to get. You might even start on that note. Okay, pinky trick. All right, and now all fingers out. that they get the best possible sound. One other important thing, when the students do go to finally pack up at the end of your session, of each session, make sure they're loosening the bow and make sure that anytime that they need to get up from their seat, that we're training them that, okay, we turn that screw to the left, put the end pin in, tighten it again, right? So that it doesn't fall out in the middle class. And then we're gonna put the instrument out to the left here with a scroll facing forward. You know, if we're just needing to set it down for a minute, use the restroom, or, you know, grab something from the classroom. But when it comes to putting away the instrument, let's also make sure that the students are doing a bang-up job of using their cleaning cloth to clean off the top of the strings, underneath the strings, and on the fingerboard, on the body of the instrument, and all around, because that rosin really is caustic and it will cause your strings to melt, or not to melt, but rather to rust a whole lot faster. It's kind of like melting. And it also builds up on the instrument, which is really unpleasant. One thing you can continue to do if you have more time and you're getting into a third week, or you have more time to develop this, other rhythm patterns are a great idea, and you can even make them food-based. For me, pepperoni pizza is a lot of fun. This is kind of ties in with the Suzuki approach to violin playing, and string playing, but the pepperoni pizza rhythm. You could have them play Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star like that. They love to do that. That's probably more of a, if you had a third week and you're getting into there, that's a great skill to develop. When your students are learning to hold the bow at the frog, it can be challenging because it's quite heavy. There are a few different tricks that you can do. One trick that I love is the spider, where you can see that you just using your right hand and your bow fingers, you're moving up and down the stick of the bow. This is a really fun one. They love it. Not putting the thumb inside the letter U, but at the tip of the letter U. And just only the tip of the thumb is touching. Two middle fingers in front. Another little trick that I do at the beginning, just to keep things loose, is to stir. So I like to ask the kids, what do we want to make today? So we might be mixing up brownie batter. We'll go the other way. And this just helps to relax the bow arm and get fluidity in the arm moving. Another great trick that you can do is windshield wipers. Now, you got to be careful that they don't smack their neighbor. So again, this is where, when they're spread out, this helps. But you can see that this helps to promote a relaxed bow hold. When I'm in this position, obviously that's our traditional position, but the pinky oftentimes wants to collapse. And you can help to avoid that by using this trick, because as you rotate the bow this way, it puts all of the pressure and the weight of the bow on your index finger, but then notice your pinky finger is relaxed. And so it helps the students to feel what a relaxed pinky should be like. Another really fun game you can have the kids do is rocket ship. And so you have your launch pad, you have the bow right here, have them set a really good bow hold, and then off to space, safely returning back to Earth. And what this does is it promotes a nice straight bow arm, while the kids are thinking about excellent hand posture and positioning on the bow. Another really great technique is to have the kids do the inside elbow touch. And so that's where they take their left hand, touch the inside of their right elbow, and then they bow. And the great thing is it helps the violins and violas in particular to realize, all right, we don't want to bow from the shoulder when we're in the upper half of the bow. And it helps them to just isolate the proper part of the bow. You could even have them in playing position, reaching under the instrument, doing their jaw flex with their instrument, and it helps for the bow trajectory. For the next trick, you can have the kids chop and flop. And so they reach across the table and they chop right on the bow, placing the thumb underneath, and then they flop towards their pointer finger, towards the tip of the bow, and they pronate their index finger out towards the tip of the bow. And what this does is it helps to get the correct orientation of the hand. Chop, and then lean and flop at an angle towards the pointer finger, resting on the first knuckle. The next trick you can have kids do is to ring the doorbell. So you have them set right at the frog of the bow. Notice that our thumb is right at the tip of the letter U, not inside the letter U of the frog. And then we have them ring the doorbell. Ding dong, ding dong. Helps to make the sound effect because sound effects are awesome. And this promotes a nice loose, round O shape with the bow. don't even be afraid if they're struggling down at the frog. After you move them there, we can go back and forth between the balance point and the frog and continue to develop those skills just to promote relaxation. We don't want this. If your thumb is collapsed, that's going to make your pinky collapse and straight. Think about it. If you see a common problem here, if you see a pinky that is, never, it's always like this, right? How often have we seen that? Well, think about what the thumb is doing. It's the thumb that's the reason. You bend that thumb out, the pinky's going to bend out. So it's a symptom. The pinky being straight like this is going to be a symptom of a bigger problem, which is your thumb and squeezing. And you want to imagine, holding an Oreo down there. Don't crush the Oreo. You got the grape over here, you got the Oreo over here, or you could have another grape over here, however you want to imagine that. One thing we never want either is to play on the screw of the bow. This is a common mistake I see, students playing on the screw of the bow. That means that their center of gravity is off, what I call the center of gravity. Remember, when we move our bow hold down to the frog, in the case of violin, viola, and cello, we should be right at the tip of what I call this letter U. It's kind of sideways right now, but you see like that, right? We're going to slide down. We're going to slide our hand down. And I just have them slide it down here to the tip of the letter U. You can even have them do a little spider getting back and forth. That's kind of a fun game to keep their fingers as relaxed as possible. We slide it down, have them set their bow hold, and then slide it right down here to the tip of the letter U, like this. Then the two middle fingers right in front, pinky here, and you shouldn't be anywhere close to there. If that's happening, that's because the thumb is not bent. And once that thumb bends, look what happens. See, the pinky will curve. It's almost a reflex. Another common bow mistake that I see, kids like right up on top of the bow instead of sinking over. Remember, keep reinforcing this bow hold. The two middle fingers go around the hook, right like this. Just the tip of your thumb, not the flat part of your thumb, because again, that'll collapse the whole hand, that we pop and we flop towards the pointer finger. I'll also sometimes see this, especially in cellos, okay? Trick there, reach across the table, set that thumb right at the tip of the letter U, two middle fingers across, and almost with the cello, we want to pop and flop towards that pointer finger a little bit. And with cello, we're going to have our fingers a little bit more spread out like so, where the pinky's going over the edge, right? Okay, more so like this, and more of a downward slope instead of this, right? That's a violin viola hold. We don't want that for your cellos. Your cellos are going to be a little bit more like this. So if it's here, all that kind of comes down to the thumb. Where is the position of the thumb? Pop the thumb and flop towards the pointer finger, and it'll work almost every time. Developing students' intonation is so important as they're playing with the bow. And there'll be a lot of times that you're continuing to reference getting your fingers on the tape. Again, this is why I'm a big proponent for the tapes. And I'm also a proponent of removing those tapes. We don't want it to be a crutch eventually. But in the early stages, those tapes are really helpful. And even in some of the later stages when they're trying to master extensions and trying to visually see that, really helps. But I get a lot of questions about how do I get my students to play so in tune? It's a lot of playing on the piano to accompany them so that they hear the chords underneath them. It's also spending a lot of time on this D major sequence stuff. Even when we get into the method books, think about it. A lot of the method books, that's all you're doing for a while. Some people might criticize that. I feel that that's a strength because you spend a lot of time working on these basics in the beginning and making them feel great about it and getting an amazing sound that they're pulling, really keeping that bow straight, whatever instrument they're playing, and focusing on a good sound, modeling often. It's going to make all the difference in the world. It's going to make, I guarantee you, as a high school director with a very successful program, it allows those kids then down the road, they're going to run with it. They're going to do well, whatever group they're in or audition into later in their life. They're going to have a great sound and be able to play really well in tune. Having them sing along with you and saying the note names again is really important. Don't stigmatize singing. Make it cool to sing. You don't have to be a great piano player to play piano in class. I am certainly not a great piano player, but I block a lot of chords and it works out pretty well. Getting kids to play in tune, it is 100% possible. It takes persistence, and you have to make it relevant to them, to our kids, from the beginning stages. And one of the best ways that you can do that is have a piano or a keyboard in your classroom. You can use a drone on like the app Tonal Energy, for instance. That helps to, if we're learning to play a G, that we hold that note out, right? So that they really get that in tune and understand what it means to play it in tune. A lot of times a cello or bass note might sound flat simply because they aren't getting enough weight into the string. It's a very common problem. It's probably because they're collapsing the thumb. But by playing the piano, it's really going to help your students. So even if it's just blocking chords, D, D, E, right? Or whatever scale you're playing, if it's D, D, 4 times each note, E, so they're hearing it. That process is huge. And then take times, you can come back and make something better in tune in a loving way. It doesn't have to be done, and it should never be done in a mean way, but it's okay to tell kids, hey, we're getting there, we're growing. Maybe record them, have them listen to it and go, and then they go, oh yeah, I hear that's not quite in tune. You demonstrate the proper way, and then they can hear the incorrect way, and they continue to make it better. But it's awareness. It's just like wearing deodorant, right? You gotta be aware. Again, in no way is this video meant to be the only way to teach beginning orchestra, but for me, this is the first couple weeks how I do it. I've distilled it all into as short of a video as I can, even though it's a pretty long video. I've tried to distill it all down, and obviously there are little things here or there that I do that I could expound upon, but for the sake of brevity, I'm kind of leaving it at that. But I'm constantly learning, and I love watching others teach and getting new ideas and new phraseology, new ways to say things. So we all should be always engaged in ongoing professional development. So I encourage you, get out there, take a day, even if you have to take a day off, personal day or whatever, and go watch a colleague do their thing. If you can get a professional day, a lot of times a lot of districts will let you do that, where you can go over and watch a really strong teacher do their thing, or just a different teacher do their thing, and beg, borrow, and steal. So my hope is that this has been helpful for you. I'm wishing you all the best, and thank you for teaching kids. That's the bottom line. You're teaching people. That's the most important thing to remember, that we teach people. It's relationships first, relationships. Then it's the relevance, and then it's the rigor of building, of demanding excellence and expecting excellence. And it's okay to expect excellence. Kids want to succeed. They want to do well. Sometimes they might push back a little bit. They might moan and groan. But if you try to make it as joyful as possible, and even knowing that there will be moments sometimes where it's hard and it's a journey and it's a process, they get out of that falling in love stage of the very beginning of learning their instrument. You've set them up with a foundation. And it's okay to push kids, because they'll come back and they'll respond. Kids are amazing and they're resilient. And if you do it in a loving, kind, positive way, anything's possible. Thank you for teaching kids, and all the best to you.